We will come to order. Anne, can you call the roll, please?
Yes. All right. If you would please announce your presence when I announce your jurisdiction. County of San Mateo.
Dave Pine.
Carol Groom.
Town of Atherton.
Rick Tagolia.
City of Belmont.
Julia.
City of Brisbane. City of Burlingame. Okay, I don't think I heard Burlingame.
No, I'm here.
Oh, you're there? Okay, thank you.
Sorry, there was noise going on in the background. People need to mute their screen.
Town of Colma. Colma. City of Daly City.
Rod Das Magbuwal.
City of East Palo Alto. City of Foster City.
Catherine Mahompur.
City of Half Moon Bay. Town of Hillsborough.
Larry May.
City of Menlo Park.
Catherine Carlton.
City of Millbrae.
Ann Schneider.
City of Pacifica. Town of Portola Valley.
Jeff Alfs.
City of Redwood City.
Ian Bain.
City of San Bruno.
Marty Medina.
City of San Carlos.
Laura Palmer Lohan.
City of San Bruno. Or, sorry, City of San Mateo.
Rick Bonilla.
City of South San Francisco.
Laura Nicholas.
Town of Woodside.
Daniel Yost.
We do have a quorum.
Thank you.
Oh, and I'm sorry, Director Emeritus.
Pradeep Gupta.
And Director Emeritus. No, we have one Director Emeritus.
Okay.
So
Thank
I'm here, John Keener.
Oh, thank you.
We have two. Good. Okay. Thank you. Our next item is public comment. If anyone wants to address the board on an item not on tonight's agenda, now is the time. Please raise your hand in Zoom so I can see you. And seeing none, I will entertain a motion to set the agenda and approve the consent agenda.
Jeff, I did want to
Yes.
mention that there was public comment that was emailed in, and I sent it with the supplemental agenda packet and posted it on the website.
Okay.
I can just, it was a letter and a brochure from a resident of San Mateo County, Timothy Makovkin, and it's regarding the PCIA.
Okay. Okay. So noted. We will just we will accept that and include that for for tonight's agenda. We are pulling item 5 because the agreement is not quite ready. So with that amendment, I will entertain a motion to set the agenda and approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
So I'll second that. Ian Bain, Redwood City.
Yep. Okay. Moved by Laura Palmer Lohan, seconded by Ian Bain. And roll call vote, please.
Okay, if you would please announce your approval or disapproval when I announce your jurisdiction. County of San Mateo.
Yes.
Yes.
Town of Atherton. Atherton? Oh. Was that Rick?
Sorry, yes.
Thank you. City of Belmont.
Yes.
City of Brisbane. City of Burlingame.
Yes.
Town of Colma. City of Daly City.
Yes.
City of East Palo Alto. City of Foster City.
Yes.
City of Half Moon Bay. Town of Hillsborough.
Yes.
City of Menlo Park.
Yes.
City of Millbrae.
Yes.
City of Pacifica, Town of Portola Valley,
Yes.
City of Redwood City,
Yes.
City of San Bruno,
Yes.
City of San Carlos,
Yes.
City of San Mateo,
Yes.
City of South San Francisco,
Yes.
Town of Woodside,
Yes.
and the motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you.
Jeff, I hate to interrupt, but we do have a swearing in this evening.
Oh.
So we should go ahead and do that now if that works for you.
I'm sorry, I forgot. Yes, please go ahead.
I apologize also, I have 2 young kids in the background, so that's not part of the swearing in ceremony, but we...
The swearing ceremony, but yeah.
Hopefully not, they're only 2 and 4, so...
I meant you, yeah.
I swear them in anyway.
Adds authenticity.
I know that we have Mayor Villalta here today from Los Banos, and I know that you are in possession of the swearing in script. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great. So I will go ahead and perform the swearing in, and then you can use your script as a reference because I know this is hard when it's remote.
Okay. I have to see if I can pull it up now.
Okay. Take your time.
Oh. Okay.
Jennifer, you could pull it up on the screen if you want to share, if you want to do that.
Yeah, that would be better, please, if you could.
It is public.
Jennifer, you're on mute.
I wasn't aware that I could share my screen without being the host. So let's see. Working on that now. 1 second here. Are you seeing the screen now?
I am.
All right. So I'll go ahead and if you want to raise your right hand.
Okay.
And you can repeat after me.
All right.
I, Mike Villalta, do solemnly swear
I, Mike Villalta, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I will take this obligation freely
that I will take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that is for 2 weeks.
Welcome, regardless.
And we'll go ahead and give you or send you another version for you to execute.
Okay, not a problem.
Thank you.
Just be aware that if they certify the election by November 25th or November 26th in our county, then I will probably be mayor till December 3rd meeting. And if it's after that and they post the agenda, it will be December 16th, and then I will be out of office.
Understood.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. And yes, Mayor Villalta, thank you for welcome to the PCE board, and we hardly knew you, really, and I meant to welcome Los Banos to Peninsula Clean Energy. We're very excited to have this expansion. This is a big moment for us, and we look forward to working with you and your successors.
Thank you. Spend a lot of time in the Bay Area. Love it up there.
Yeah. No. Well, now that you're out of, if you're leaving office, come back and visit. You'll have some time.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the welcome, and we're looking forward to having you provide energy for us, at least by, I think, January of well, maybe 2022, depending upon what's happening, and as soon as we can get everything finalized, and our citizens are looking forward to this too, and then the incentives that you provide through PCE. So thank you again.
Okay. No, we're very excited to have you guys on board. Okay. That brings us to regular item 1, my report. As we've just, my main report is simply to congratulate those of you who have won re-election. And to note that some of us will be moving on. So we will be having a few vacancies on some of our committees, notably the executive committee, and actually I think it's just mainly the executive committee. If anyone is interested in being on the executive committee in particular, please let me know. We will have some openings, and we will. I'll plan on nominating, along with my vice chair, Rick. We will nominate a new executive committee come December. So just keep that in mind. Other than that, some of you are leaving. We thank you for everything you've done. I think we will go ahead with some kind of commemoration of your service to the board and future. But for the moment, we say thank you, and we wish you the best, and we look forward to meeting some new representatives probably in December. That is my report. We'll move on to item 2, which is the CEO report. Oh, sorry. My vice chair has reminded me that we will need a new member of nominations. As he's not here tonight, but Wayne Lee, our board member from Millbrae, is leaving us, and so. Oh, hey, Wayne.
Rick, I'd volunteer. Dave.
Dave, you want to be the nominate? You take the charge of nominating?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you. So
you've got big shoes to fill, Dave.
I know.
Okay. With that, and with Dave agreeing to be the new nominating chair of the new nominating committee, I will turn this over to Jan right now. And thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We're very excited to see you here tonight. So I'll get going with the CEO report. We'll go to the next slide. What we will go through tonight is staffing updates. Welcome to our new board member. Thank you to our departing board members, the COVID-19 update, PCIA update, Power on Peninsula update, Reach Codes update, few updates, how about that? Okay, so next slide, please. So we have a staffing update. Kim Lee has joined us as our Senior Manager of Data and Technology. She started on Monday, and I believe she's here. So Kim, wave. No. Hi. Maybe you could just give a 1 minute hello and let us know where you came from.
Yes, I joined from a small startup called RideCell, and I was doing car sharing and ride sharing and mobility software over at RideCell. I was in charge of the data and analytics platform and building out the data warehouse and data pipeline, data lake, and all of things data over there. And so that's what I'll be doing here is building out the data warehouse and making sure that all of our data needs are taken care of, and making sure we can make dashboards and reports for everything we need.
Great, thank you, Kim. And we're looking forward to meeting you in person, hopefully within the next 12 months.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to our next slide is welcome to Mike Villalta, and his alternate will be the city manager, Alex Terrazas. So I think we already said hi to you, Mike, and congratulations on your swearing in. We're very happy to have you join us. And next, we want to say thank you to those board members who are departing. Catherine Mahanpour from Foster City, Kat Carlton from Menlo Park, Wayne Lee from Millbrae, Ian Bain from Redwood City, and Daniel Yost from Woodside. So thank you so much to all of you. We're going to miss you a lot, and wish we could all be in person to shake your hand, give your hugs, whatever, but we'll have to do it virtually tonight. So thank you so much for everything that you have provided to us.
All but Dan.
Is this the time we can say a few words, or should we hold that for later?
No, yeah,
Please,
just go ahead and
yeah.
say some
And
words.
if I could just interject for 1 second, I think Deidre Martin from Pacifica is also departing.
Is that right?
Oh, is that right?
She didn't stand for re-election.
Oh, no. Okay,
I don't know if she's
I
on
have
tonight.
That's
Deidre.
correct.
I thought I saw Deidre here earlier.
She's here, yeah.
Okay, well, we add her to the list of distinguished members here.
Okay, will do. I'm sorry we didn't realize that, Deidre. So anyway, we would like to let each of you say a few words. We'll just go in, we're going in alphabetical order of your city. So we'll start with Catherine.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi, Catherine.
Hi. Yeah, I just want to thank everybody. It's been great working with PCE, and I hope to be one of those people who are a participant and come in and check in on the meetings every once in a while. May have some comments for you, but I just want to say what a great experience it's been working with PCE and working with all of you. It's really been a pleasure and a joy, and you're doing such great things here at PCE. So I'm pretty proud to have been a board member. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine.
Our virtual clap. Kat.
Hi, everybody. I was just thinking about, I remember the very first meeting. I think Dave Pine held it in the library in Redwood City.
Oh.
And was that the first meeting?
That was a pitch. That was when they started explaining to us what PCE was all about.
Yeah, the first idea. And I got so excited. He said, see if you, take this information back, let us know if your city's interested. And I remember bouncing up to him that afternoon and saying, yes, Menlo Park is definitely interested. And he said, maybe you should go back and speak to your city council members. And I said, oh yeah, that's probably a good idea. And then I had no idea that we were going to meet, I think it was every Thursday for almost a year. With all the people involved. I just remember this sea of people packed into a room, all getting together to do this. And I'm just so proud of what everyone has done. And that's the nonprofits, the interested residents, as well as the elected people, all got together and made this a reality. And a reality that other people from other areas want to join. And so I'm just saying, I decided not to run again. I'm going to go off and do other things. But when I look back on this, I'm so deeply, deeply proud of everyone that made this. And it wasn't anyone. It was a huge group of people that made this a reality. And I just can't say enough as to the impact it's having on our county, on the world. And I'm proud of everyone here. And I am very, very confident that it's going to be a success in the future too. So thank you all so much. And thank you to Dave Pine for your leadership on this.
Thank you, Kat.
Thank you, Kat.
Thank you, Kat. Yeah.
We'll go to Wayne Lee.
Yeah, thank you, Jan. First, I just want to thank you all for this journey, particularly Dave, Supervisor Dave Pine. Thank you for putting this all together. You started the first meetings, and I went to the first meeting. I got appointed by the mayor, who was me. I was lucky. And
Okay.
yeah, that I had in. So, and ever since, it's been a great journey. And I think that the most proud part was working with all of you. I'm saying that sincerely. And then also the fact that I feel that as a group, we work really hard and earnestly to try to make our kids and our grandkids' lives better. And that's what was really important to every one of us, I think. I was fortunate to be appointed to the executive committee and many other committees, and I thank you for entrusting me in doing a lot of those, working on those committees. I learned a lot, and I cannot say that I'm an expert in energy still, like many of you, but I learned how an energy company operates, and I'm just so happy and lucky to be a part of this. So again, thanks, Godspeed to all of you, and especially those people who are stepping off public servants. Thank you for your service, and I'm going to miss a lot of you. So I hope we see each other again, and hope you keep me in your Rolodex.
We will miss you too, Wayne.
Thank you, Wayne.
Yeah, Wayne, I just want to thank you. You've been here from the very beginning, and you've served on lots of committees. We've worked a lot together, and I've really enjoyed it. So I look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Thank you.
Going alphabetically by city, that would bring Pacifica next. So Deidre.
No, thanks everyone. Yeah, I decided not to rerun, but I look forward to being back on the other side and seeing you from the other side. I, had some big shoes to fill with John Keener, who I'm glad is still there to sort of,
Hi, Deidre.
at least, hi, John, I haven't seen you in so long. Your hair got long. Anyway, I'll miss you all. It's been really an honor. I've learned so much, and I still have so much more to learn, and I really look forward to, making this education a family affair. And I really have been able to sort of practice what I've been preaching, and it's just been really an honor. Mary Beer is hopefully going to step in, and I think she'll be a really good representative for the city of Pacifica. And I want to thank all those that worked really hard. Supervisor Pine, Jan, you've been amazing, and everybody on all the subcommittees. It's been a really great experience. I feel like I've only just got my feet wet, but what an honor. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Deidre.
Thank you, Deidre. Yeah.
Ian.
Thank you, Jan. It's been a real honor to serve with this group, and I have never seen a group of people so caring and committed to a cause as this group here, not just our board members, but our staff. And like a few others here, I was involved at the very beginning and watched this organization grow from a great idea to a true power purchasing company to now a leader and an innovator in CCAs across the state, and I dare say across the country. I'm going to be watching with great interest as PCE goes to its next phase. But in Redwood City, we have term limits, and so this is my final term. I stepped down December 9th after 18 years, which is more than enough for anyone to serve on a city council. But the good news is for the last 2 years, I've been training who I believe is going to be my replacement, Councilmember Giselle Hale, who will likely be appointed by the mayor and will walk seamlessly into the role. So again, kudos to this group. You've accomplished great things. Everyone should be very proud. I want to thank, Dave in particular for his leadership on this. And again, I'll be watching with great interest. Thanks again.
Thank you, Ian.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Daniel.
Hi there. Hi, everyone. So when I made the decision not to run for re-election for the town council in Woodside, the piece that I was going to miss the most, it was very clear, was not my council meetings, but it was PCE and my PCE colleagues. And, it would be impossible to name names and hit everybody, but obviously, Dave and Jan and Carol and Jeff and Rick and the entire staff, I think, has been tremendous. So I'm going to miss everybody. I'm not going away. one thing I'm doing is making a bit more time in my life to do some more work on climate and energy matters. I spent an hour on the phone on a Zoom today with our new state senator, Josh Becker, talking about weighing which of 4 bills should be one of the first climate and energy ones that he launches with. And so, you know, maybe reaching out to a bunch of you for your thoughts and expertise. So definitely don't be a stranger. Don't think of me as a stranger. I'm still around. I'm still engaged. Find me on LinkedIn or on Facebook. And I will leave you with one idea. When I first, when I was selected to be mayor of Woodside, my husband got a little gift for me, which was a sash, which says Lord Mayor, Town of Woodside. I've not actually worn this out and about, but you know, maybe PCE could do something like this, or for chairs or in your towns. I did start a tradition. When I handed over the mayorship, I had a new sash created. It doesn't say Lord Mayor, it just says Mayor, Town of Woodside. And I did the passing of the sash to the next mayor. So anyways, love to stay in touch on substance as well as just to have a drink sometime. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
I actually got a t-shirt from my family when I became mayor last year. I really did get a t-shirt for being mayor. So I like the sash. Yes, thank you all. We will miss you, but we will be in touch. So take care of yourselves.
Yes, and if you do know who your replacement might be, please let Anne know. She's curious as to who, well, we're all curious as to who's going to replace you. You all have big shoes to fill, so thank you so much. And we might be seeing Daniel more. We're actually putting Daniel's name forth as a potential person on the PUC. There's one seat that's opening up. And as CalCCA members, we've been putting together a list of people that we think might be good candidates for that seat. And Daniel has made the short list of about 5 or 6 people that CalCCA is promoting. So we'll see. And if not this seat, then there's possibly 2 more seats that might come open this year at the PUC later on. So we'll hopefully get some friendly faces there, as you know, we can use it. Okay, we'll go on to the next less exciting, less happy, which is the impact of COVID-19 on our load. And we've been going through this each month. Thank you to Mehdi and the Power Resources team for pulling this together. And I'd like to actually get feedback from you all if you find this interesting or if you want us to stop providing this kind of detailed information each month at the board meeting. But we'll just go through right now. If we can go to the next slide, which shows the change in our load from April to October of 19 to April to October of 20. So in the same period, our load has decreased 5%. It's been about a 14% decrease in commercial and industrial load and a 10% increase in residential load. We go to the next slide. It just shows month by month the comparison from 19 to 20. And we're starting to see actually that our load is building back up. Who knows what's going to happen now that all of the counties are moving backwards. Is San Mateo going to purple, or are you just going back to red?
Red.
Red at the moment.
Okay, because in Santa Clara here, we're going back to purple. So who knows what's going to happen as more businesses and all that are closed down. But we're seeing less decrease. October was just a 0.3% decrease compared to, actually it was an increase compared to the same month in 2019. And then if we go to the next slide, it shows for all of the different categories what the change has been per month. The numbers at the bottom are the months of the year. And so residential is up 13% now. Industrial is up 12% compared to the same month in 2019. So we're starting to see some recovery in the electricity usage. And if we go to the next slide, it shows the load shapes comparing 2019 in blue with 2020 in red. And we can see that in October, we're starting to track a little closer to what we saw in 2019. In September and August, we had those heat waves, so there were some increases in load, but in October, we didn't have huge heat waves, but we're still seeing the load stay higher. For commercial industrial, which is our next slide, shows that for 2020, the dotted gray line, I know there's a lot of lines here to see, but you can see that the lines are starting to move up. The dotted lines are starting to hit the solid lines, at least cross some of them for industrial, and for the commercial ones, they're still trending a bit below what they were in 2019. And then if we go to the next slide for residential, again, 2020 is the orange line, 2019 is the blue line. And we see in October that the residential is going quite a bit higher than the 2019 load. So it's trending higher every month. Okay, if we can go to the next slide. So we've talked before about the PCIA, and just yesterday, a settlement was reached between PG&E, Cal CCA, and the joint CCAs, the joint CCAs being those Northern California CCAs, of which we are a part. And we have reached a settlement on what will happen with the PCIA effective January 1, 2021. And the PUBA, which is that trigger, it's all the money that kind of started building up because there were under-collections of the PCIA due to the cap, that will be amortized over 3 years. PG&E had put in a advice letter asking that to be all collected in 2021, but it will be collected over 3 years, which is better for us. The cap of 1/2 cent will be removed effective January 1, 21. And what that means is that there shouldn't be a big under collection happening, and this should be the last time that we have this PUBA, this under collection, and therefore this cap and trigger will not be implemented anymore, and we will be doing a joint petition for modification to the public utilities with PG&E to change that and get rid of the cap and trigger. This requires PUC approval by December 17th. If the PUC does not approve it, then it goes back to what it was going to be. And so what this means for us, the numbers aren't exactly right, but we're expecting that the impact on the PCIA rates for as of January 21 will be about a 1 cent per kilowatt hour increase in the PCIA overall. It'll be different for different rates, rate tariffs, but it's approximately a 33% increase from where it is right now. Otherwise, it would have been about a 1.2 cent increase, or about a 38% increase without this settlement. So if the PUC doesn't approve this, then we will see that larger PCIA increase because the PUBA will be collected over 1 year, and then a balance will start collecting again, and we'll have another under collection balance, which will need to be collected because of the cap. So I know this is a lot of numbers, a lot of stuff, but generally we feel that this is a positive development, and we'll continue to keep working on reducing the PCIA overall. Next slide, please. Just an update on our Power on Peninsula medical program. This is where we're providing free portable batteries and portable solar panels to folks who are medically vulnerable and who have been impacted by PS events. So as of today, Hassett Hardware has received 150 batteries and 100 of the foldable solar panels, and they've delivered 116 of those batteries and 26 of the solar panels. And those have gone out to 114 customers. 2 of those customers got 2 batteries, and which is why it's less customers than the number of batteries that have gone out. And there's a number of other customers who have been qualified to receive the batteries, and they will get delivery of those batteries soon. And as you know, we also donated $5,000 to Puente de la Costa Sur for hotel vouchers when the fires were going on a couple months ago. Next slide, please. Congratulations goes to Millbrae for adopting your REACH codes. I think that was last week or within the last couple of weeks. So we now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 9 agencies that have adopted all electric building codes. We're still working with San Carlos that you've got the pre-wiring in there and they're considering all electric. So, and we continue to work with the other agencies that have not yet gotten the REACH codes to their councils, and we're here to help make that happen if you're interested in that. And then lastly, the next set of meetings will be in December, coming up soon. The CAC, the Executive Committee, and the Board of Directors meetings. These are all 1 week earlier than normal because of the holidays. So after tonight, we will see you all again on December 17th. So happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you, Jan. If anyone has questions, you can raise your hands, please.
Good.
Okay. Mark Roost, go ahead.
Unmute. I'm wondering when the payments to PG&E might end, when those old contracts might finally be exhausted.
That's a good question, and we're all wondering about that. We're working on that.
Okay, thanks.
I don't have an answer for you, unfortunately.
They will taper off over time. Is that
They
correct?
should, and we do expect that the PCIA will go down in 2024 and 2025 when Diablo Canyon comes offline. And we also are in this other proceeding at the PUC called Working Group 3, where we are trying to reduce the size of the pie and get the number of contracts that are contributing to the PCIA to be reduced. So we're continually working on that. Jeremy Wayne from our staff is leading a lot of the efforts with CalCCA on that. He's doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, it's complicated. Thanks.
That's true.
Ann Schneider, go ahead.
Mute button, where are you?
We can hear you.
We hear you.
Okay. Hey, I just wanted to say thank you to staff and staff from other areas like Sierra Club. They came to our council meeting a week and a half ago when we approved REACH codes, and I think we got there because of PCE staff and Sierra Club, other people coming up to speak. So yay and thank you.
Great, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, Ann. Okay, I don't see any other hands up, so we'll move on to item 3, which is an update from the Citizens Advisory Committee. Desiree, go ahead.
Yeah, so we met 2 weeks ago with our normal schedule, and though we had a full agenda, I really want to focus tonight on one item from our last meeting. It was an action item where we made a recommendation for the PG&E nuclear and large hydro allocation. So that will be item 7 for you, the board, tonight. And just as some background, so first we had a presentation from Jan about the options that are available and kind of the monetary values of each of those. And then we also had a presentation from KJ on some analysis that was done from a survey about nuclear attitudes from various PCE residents. And then we had quite a lengthy discussion about it. And really, we had varying opinions. Some of the members felt that they had concerns over having nuclear mentioned on the power content label. And others expressed that they thought it wasn't in line with PCE's values. Whereas others realized that there was an amount of money that could be used for programs at PCE. And some even went as far as saying, well, large hydro is not good for the environment either, but realizing that that's currently part of PCE's portfolio, there wasn't too much discussion about that. But in the end, we did have a vote. So the vote was 7-3 with 1 abstention in favor of rejecting the nuclear allocation and accepting the large hydro allocation. Yes, I think that's mainly what I wanted to share. If there are any questions from the board or further details that I could share.
Yep, thank you, Desiree. And I was going to maybe try to paraphrase some of the the CAC discussions when we got to item 7. Are there questions about the CAC committee for now? Okay, I don't see any, so thank you, Desiree. And move on to item 4, which is a report from the Audit and Finance Committee. Donna, go ahead.
Thank you. So you'll notice in the end of your consent calendar are your, I believe there were your reports, or that's where to look for them. We held our last meeting on November 9th. It was actually pretty brief. We had a review of our financial reports and our investment summary for the first quarter of the 2021 year. All of that went smoothly, and we simply set up our calendar agenda for the 2021 year. And I believe that was about it. There really was not much additional discussion that meeting, unless Andy, you have anything else you'd like to add?
Nope, nothing else to add. That's very thorough.
Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. Any questions about audit and finance? Okay, I don't see any hands up, so we'll move on to actually item 6. Item 5 was pulled because we were not quite, the agreements weren't quite ready, so we'll move on to item 6, which is agreement with Sky River Wind. Jan, do you want to start us off on this?
Hey, this is Siobhan. Can you hear me?
Oh, go ahead, Siobhan. Yes, sorry.
All right, thanks. I can walk us through this. If we go to the next slide, please. All right, next one, please. All right, so we're going to give you guys an overview of the project. We'll take a look at the profile of the generation from the power plant, talk about how it fits in with our current portfolio, give a brief overview of our work with a board subcommittee, and then ask for your approval to move forward with this project. Next slide, please. So just restating our recommendation, which is to approve the resolution delegating authority to the CEO to execute a PPA for renewable supply with the Sky River Wind Project. It is supposed to start operating in September. All right, next slide. So just for some background, in order to hit our goal to be 100% renewable on a time coincident basis, we're going to need some significant wind resources. We've just completed an RFO for new long-term renewable projects. We received 40 different projects. Only 6 of those were from wind projects. The reason for this is that most of the wind projects that are out there are already under contract, with contracts that either don't expire until after 2025. Many of the wind areas in California are already fully developed, and so far that we've seen limited repowering opportunities. We have explored some out-of-state options, but these are risky because they need extra transmission, and they also do not provide us with the resource adequacy benefits. Next slide, please. So the project that we're looking at is called the Sky River Wind Project. It's located in Kern County in the Tehachapi area. The total project is 60 megawatts, and we'll be procuring about half of that at 30 megawatts. The capacity factor is 44%, which will deliver about 115 gigawatt hours to us annually. It's expected to start operating on September 1, 2021, and we're going to sign a contract for a 20-year term. Next slide, please. And so this is showing the location. You can see it's just east of Bakersfield, and you can see the layout of the project. As I mentioned, we'll be procuring about half of the output. We have some specified turbines. The little yellow dots on here represent the turbines that would be assigned to PCE, and the blue dots are the turbines that will be assigned to the other off-taker. The other off-taker is BART. They already signed a PPA for part of this project. This project is a repower of an existing facility. The original facility had been operational for almost 30 years. The repowering leverages the existing infrastructure, and it will also help avoiding disturbing undeveloped areas. And then also to note, this is replacing 157 existing turbines with just 11 new turbines. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, BART is procuring the other half of the project. They'd initially approved a PPA for the full offtake in December 2017. The project started construction in 2019, but they determined they needed to change some of the wind turbines selected. Our project and BART's will be fully electrically separate, except for some specified shared facilities, and we'll have full control over our portion of the project. Next, please. The owner who we've been negotiating with is Next Era Energy Resources. They're a long-term owner of solar and wind generation. They have about 16,000 megawatts of wind in North America and just under 3,000 megawatts of solar generation. In California, they have about 10 wind projects, 10 utility scale solar projects, 30 battery projects, and 123 distributed solar projects. They've invested about $7 billion in California. Their payroll in California is about $45 million. They're making about $14 million in annual land payments and about $18 million in property taxes last year in California. Next slide, please. So this is showing us the generation profile. Each chart represents 1 month, and we're looking at the bottom is the hour of the day. So this is what we expect to be the average generation in each of these months. One of the reasons that we liked this project is if you look at June, July, August, September, you can see this is kind of opposite of solar generation. So we think it'll fit well with the Wright project and the Mustang project that will be generating during the summertime. And then it also has a pretty flat output during the winter when we need more generation. Next slide, please. And then this slide is showing how this project will fit in our portfolio in different years. This is an average daily generation for each year. And what we see here is the blue is our current PPA contracts, primarily Wright, Mustang, and some of the Shiloh wind project. The yellow are our current hedge contracts, and then the red is the addition of this project. And so you can see it's not a big project compared to Wright and Mustang, but it's filling in some of those gaps, especially in the evening hours. Next slide, please. And this is looking at, for one particular year, for 2023, the month-hour average. So again, the blue is our current PPA. Each squiggle, I guess, is a different month. So you can see in the summertime, we've got a lot of generation from our solar projects. And you can see how this is filling in more in the wintertime with the red and in the evenings. Next slide, please. So we wanted to note that in October, staff met with a subset of board members to discuss this project. One of the main reason we wanted to discuss this was that the project will not have a project labor agreement in place. This is because the project was already pretty well advanced because they started construction last year, and they're already in advanced status of the construction contract. They couldn't stop to negotiate to bring on union labor, commit to a project labor agreement, because they have a timeline with their BART contract that they need to meet. The board members, I met with the majority of them, recommended moving forward. This is a smaller sized PPA. It has very competitive pricing compared to other projects that we've seen. And as we noted at the beginning of the presentation, wind projects are very competitive, and we don't see a lot of wind projects bid into our RFOs. And then finally, this project is an advanced development stage. It'll start construction early next year and start delivering power to us in September of next year. Next slide, please. We also wanted to note how this fits in with our strategic plan. So as we know, the main priority is to design a power portfolio that will serve carbon-free energy on a 24/7 basis. So this helps us to meet our goals to secure sufficient, low-cost, clean resources. And that under that, we have objective A was to secure low-cost and stable power, to develop and implement power supply strategies, and objective B to design a diverse power portfolio. So this is helping us to meet the goals that we've set out in our strategic plan. Next slide, please. All right, so then just restating our recommendation here, and I will stop for any questions that you guys have, please.
Thanks, Siobhan. So I will start with board questions, specifically questions about the contracts. And then we will move on to public comment, and then we'll bring it back to the board for discussion of the recommendation. I see Rick Bonilla's hand up. Rick, do you have a question? Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of questions, actually. Sorry for the muting there. Does this project, is it in keeping with our labor policy number 10?
Yeah, our labor policy requires that we request information from potential suppliers about how they're going to, whether they will use union labor or not, whether they'll comply with prevailing wage, etc.
Right. But it expresses our desire to actually conduct our projects that way, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Since this project then is not really in keeping with our stated and desired policy and our practice that we established at the Wright Solar Facility in Los Banos, why was this brought to us? I mean, I thought we had actually advertised for a project that would meet the goals of Labor Policy 10.
So the policy states that we have an interest in securing union labor, and then it says that for PPAs we will request certain information and consider that in our decision making. But our policy has not stated that we would only contract with projects that agree to use a project labor agreement. We brought this project because there is a lot of competition for wind and not a lot of supply, and this will help us to meet our goals to be 100% renewable, and it came at a competitive price.
Right. Okay, I know that you mentioned that it's what is, I guess, maybe known as a repower, but in actuality, it involves the removal of some existing and then the actual construction of 11 of these new extra very large, very tall windmills. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that's correct. As part of the repower, they'll remove the old system and they'll construct the new system.
Okay, so it's actually new construction plus removal of old construction. So, okay, thanks. So for me, this raises a question, because and I understand we're looking for energy that meets our needs during the evening and early morning hours. It's hard to find in California. But we have certain, I think, values that we have all held when we created the policy, the labor policy number 10, when we actually entered into the contract for the right power. And I think we're actually doing the Mustang under the same policy. And this is not just a power purchase agreement, it's actually construction, which means jobs are being created, right? And interestingly, since this was previously going to be about 60 megawatts of energy for BART, and then BART backed out of half of the project, now this half is for sale. And as you say, they didn't want to negotiate a project labor agreement because they felt the project was too far along. They weren't going to stop and go backwards and try to do that. But when I searched BART's website, I found out that BART actually requires the prevailing wage for these projects. And yet this developer told us that they're not doing it prevailing wage. So I kind of question this developer's veracity, I think, in terms of how they're planning to build this project. So, I mean, it is our intention, and we state that we want to see local trained and skilled workers doing these projects. We want to see people have apprenticeship opportunities. We'd like to see future generations of people being able to enter the trades, because we do want our facilities built by people who have been trained by an actual training facility with real skilled and experienced trainers, rather than the people that you can get out there who have had training by, I don't know, Tom, Dick, and Harry. I don't know. I'm not sure about the safety of that for the workers, and I'm not sure about the dependability of the project for us users. With that said, I just want to mention I was the only one that actually voted no when I was a member of the committee that previewed this project about bringing it to the board, because I find it contrary to our stated values, and I'm kind of disappointed. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
If I may
Thank
jump
you.
in a little bit here as well. So,
Go ahead, Jen. Yes.
okay, yeah. So I don't know if the project has signed with an EPC yet. We don't know. It might be that the EPC that they're hiring to do the work will be hiring union workers. They just didn't want to. They were at the point in the development of this project where they couldn't make that guarantee.
Okay, good, thanks.
And also, as we discussed, you know, with BART having been the first entity that was negotiating with them, if you say that BART is requiring prevailing wage on the project, then they must be doing prevailing wage on the project. So, but it's, you know, what we're finding is that the solar industry is different than the wind industry. And for the solar projects, they do project labor agreements. It's unusual in the wind area to actually be having those project labor agreements. So it's an unfortunate thing, but that's kind of the way the business is working right now.
Okay. Thanks, Jen. Again, we're starting out with board questions, then public comment, and then we'll have a board discussion. I don't see any other hands up with questions, so I'll move on to public comments. The first one, the one hand I see is Mark Roost. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, so I'd like to bring up another technology. There is a wind turbine that was developed for Midwest farmers with typical low wind speeds. It's got a patented gearless wind turbine that's highly efficient and reliable in the generator. And its cost was going to be relatively low compared to competitors. It was invented by the same person who was doing the batteries that I'm working with. And what I want to bring up is that the price, the wind speeds, the prime wind speeds wind speed sites that the large wind turbines are being put in on may be taken up, but there may be lots of sites that would be marginal for those large wind turbines, which would not be marginal for a wind turbine that was designed for down as low as 9 miles an hour for producing significant power. And so, with a much wider power band because of the nature of the generator. So I'd be available to talk about that more at a later time. The other thing is that the towers could be different going forward. They could be captive column towers with ultra high performance concrete and basalt fiber reinforcement, which would be far lighter and could even be made on site. And that would get a company going that could later on get into doing wind turbine blades on site. So there's a lot of possibilities there that I could give you more information on at another time.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
And that would also give you a chance to push for the labor agreements.
Okay. Okay. Any other public comment? Okay, I don't see any other hands up, so we'll bring it back to the board for discussion. I will just, I'll start out. I was part of the subcommittee that discussed this project, and we did, with reservations, recommend approval of the contract. I will let other members of that subcommittee speak for themselves. I think we did have reservations about policy 10. But at the same time, there's not a lot of wind out there. This was a very competitive project, and I think the consensus of the board was that it was worth it to diversify our power supply and get some more of the very small pool of available wind in California, even if in this case it meant that we were not getting union labor on the project. That was the general consensus of the committee. I'll let others comment on that. Anyone else care to weigh in on this? John, go ahead.
One thing I would add, I agree with everything you said, Jeff. And one thing I would add is that the terms of the agreement were negotiated by Bart some time ago. And we're just taking half of it, and we're kind of Johnny come latelys to the party. So we have very little or possibly no negotiating power.
Yeah, that is a good point. And it was clear that there'd be other bidders out there. So this project would get taken up by someone if we pass on it. So. Any other comments from the board on this? Seeing no other hands raised, I could entertain a motion on the question.
Looks like Carol Groom wanted to say something.
Oh,
but you're on
sorry,
mute, Carol.
I can't see you, Carol. Did you?
I couldn't. That's okay. I couldn't find the right button to push.
I see it now. Okay.
We spent a lot of time on our developing our labor policy, and we had many meetings and we had long discussions about it. And somehow this project, it just seems to me to be not in compliance with our labor policy. I'm a little concerned about that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Carol. Carlos, go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry. Am I unmuted? Yeah.
I hear you.
the first time, we discussed this twice, I think, in committee, and the first time I discussed it, I was against it. The second time, I voted for it with the caveat that, and I am a little concerned by Jan's comments earlier today, or earlier in the meeting, where she said that's just the way the market is. My concern is that, you know, this is a slope that we're not going to return from. We're going to keep saying, oh, market is different. You cannot find union labor. We need to go with, you know, these companies that are providing us power at a lower price than other projects. And I was willing to go and approve this one project with the caveat that one, these projects not come to us anymore, and that they get filtered out by staff so that we don't have to make these decisions where, you know, we are pitting our labor policy against what we're saying is, you know, more affordable energy. So I don't know whether we need to revisit that labor policy, or whether that labor policy is not clear enough that projects are coming to us that, or will come to us in the future, that will be similar to this. But I do share many of the feelings that my colleague Rick Bonilla does on this phone call. However, I did vote yes this one time. Thank you.
And if I could respond, I mean, we don't like that as staff. We want to implement the policy. And we want it to be union labor. We're just finding that the wind industry doesn't seem to be as enlightened, as it were, as the solar industry in terms of their labor practices.
Yeah, thank you, Janet. I think, yeah, Carlos has given kind of a good portrait of the discussion that went on with that subcommittee. So thank you, Carlos. Dave's got his hand up. Dave, why don't you go ahead and comment?
Yeah, just a couple of comments. I mean, I'm really proud of the way Peninsula Clean Energy has supported labor during its tenure. When you look at the, you know, our power purchase agreements, you look at the way we've worked with labor on electric vehicle charging. With respect to this transaction and the policy, you know, first off, the policy, you know, we are in compliance with the policy, as Siobhan outlined, in that we collected all the necessary information and it was considered. Our policy is not, you know, allows PCE to do transactions that don't involve labor. I think that will be the exception. I for one am, you know, not usually I'm not a believer in the slippery slope. I don't think because we did this one, that means we're going to do 6 more. But this was a situation where we were very late to the game. You know, the BART had already negotiated the deal. It's a resource that is difficult to procure. So for those reasons, I was and am supportive of it. If it really is indeed the board's feeling that under no circumstances ever should we do a transaction that isn't involving labor, then we would have to change our policy, because the policy does not require that currently.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. That is correct. Are there other comments? Pradeep, go ahead, and then Rick. Pradeep, you may have to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Just wanted to say that I agree with the way the discussions were summarized earlier. I just wanted to emphasize 2 points about this project. One, the BART was already running with the project, and we are taking portion of the project with the original contract, the original project design in place. So it was deemed to be difficult, if not impossible, to change those conditions. Number 2, this project complements very well with our solar renewable energy in terms of the time load shape, as you saw earlier. And I think we'll have to acquire more and more resources in those hours to meet our needs in the early hours of evening and the morning. So I think given those circumstances, I approved, or I recommended that we approve this project, while I'm very sympathetic towards the views expressed earlier by Rick Bonilla, because I also believe that we need to keep a trained labor force to provide good service and good quality in our projects. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Pradeep. Rick DeGolia, go ahead.
Yeah, I hesitated here because I wasn't sure that this complied with the current policy that we have, but given Dave's clarification, I'll move approval.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Yes, this is Donna. I'll make a second.
Okay, seconded by Donna. I'll just add one thing, which is I think you've heard the gist of what we discussed in the subcommittee. It's a strange situation just because this is not because it was half of a project that BART had already pre-negotiated. It kind of fell into our laps. It's not something that's going to come up again. And I think we all, we've been on the fence about it, but 5 of the 6 of us, I believe, did in fact recommend the approval of it, partly because it does meet some of our load requirements in an area that's really, really hard to get these days. That was, I think, the thinking of the majority of us. Laura's got her hand up. Laura, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So I really appreciate this discussion. And when I was reading through the packet, I could actually hear and anticipate Rick's comments. So I appreciate the exploration on this. And it sounds like it's a complex situation in that we have an aggressive goal to get to 100% by 2025. And we need something to complement solar, and wind is it. And what I'm hearing is that in general, supply of that is quite low. I appreciate Jan's remarks in that the labor pool in that particular market segment is strikingly different from solar. That being said, if this motion carries tonight, I would ask us to consider as we move forward to think about our negotiating stance as we move into more discussions with wind suppliers to help influence how they approach getting these projects built. In other words, to support our values around labor, because it seems like these things are coming in conflict at this particular moment in time. So thank you. It's very helpful to hear the discussion. I appreciate everybody's point of view.
Thanks, Laura. I wanted to, Jan or Siobhan, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe when we do an RFO like this, my understanding has been that we do emphasize our strong preference for labor agreements or even five trade agreements. And this project happened to come up because, as was mentioned before, they had already agreed on it with BART. So it was kind of, it is a very unusual situation that we probably wouldn't see normally in the future, but that I believe that our RFOs do currently tend to steer us away from projects like this. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that's right. This project, the developer protests directly through a bilateral. It did not come through an RFO because the second half, the 30 megawatts of the project. So we do state that we have a strong preference for union labor, and we request the information that we've outlined in our policy to get that information from the developers and offers of projects.
I agree with the point. If we really are, if we are serious about only signing contracts with labor agreements, we should change the policy. But the present, it complies with our policy. That was our feeling among the subcommittee. Rick Bonilla, go ahead.
Thank you. Just one last thing regarding the labor market for this work. Carpenters actually have, and I believe we're the only entity out there that actually has a training facility with nothing but wind turbines there. So our Carpenter Millwrights is the specialty part of the industry. They do equipment, they do like huge conveyor systems, they do all sorts of big equipment because it's very fine technical work. They build a tower, they install the turbine, they put the prop on, the electricians hook it all up, right, to the lines for transmission. But so we have skilled and trained professionals that do this work, okay? And we actually have, like I say, in Las Vegas, a huge training facility for this, where that's all we train is these special people to do that work. And we actually have our own, and these turbines cost a lot of money, but we have a few of them there, different brands, and the actual manufacturers provide them, right? So that we can train on the construction and the maintenance of these things. Thanks.
Thanks, Rick. Okay. I see no other hands raised, so we can move on to a roll call vote. Again, it was we are approving this resolution. It was moved by Rick DeGolia, seconded by Donna Colson. And roll call vote, please.
Okay, if you would please announce your approval or disapproval of the motion when I announce your jurisdiction. County of San Mateo.
I'm sorry, that's yes from Dave.
County of San Mateo.
No.
Town of Atherton.
Yes.
City of Belmont.
Yes.
City of Brisbane. City of Burlingame.
Yes.
Town of Colma. City of Daly City.
No.
City of East Palo Alto. East Palo Alto.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. City of Foster City.
Yes.
City of Half Moon Bay. Town of Hillsborough.
Yes.
City of Menlo Park.
Yes.
City of Millbrae.
Yes.
City of Pacifica.
Yes.
Town of Portola Valley.
Yes.
City of Redwood City.
Yes.
City of San Bruno.
Yes.
City of San Carlos.
Yes.
City of San Mateo.
No.
City of South San Francisco.
Yes.
Town of Woodside.
I'm going to abstain in case the counterparty is a client of my employer, so I abstain.
Okay, and City of Los Banos.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to item number 7, which is a decision and policy on the PG&E nuclear allocation. Jan, do you want to start us off on this?
I think Siobhan can
Siobhan, excuse me.
do this presentation. I'll jump in as needed.
All right. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk about PG&E allocating greenhouse gas-free attributes to us for 2021 through 2023. Next slide, please. We'll go through an executive summary that was included in the board packet, some background. We'll review our greenhouse gas-free targets. We'll talk about 3 different options that we've put together, the potential cost impacts of those options, how those options would impact our power content label, how other CCAs have approached this question. We'll touch on the Citizens Advisory Committee discussion and then the pros and cons of the 3 options. Next slide, please.
Oh, and if I might jump in just for a moment. We did also have a conversation with some board members about this item and about making sure that that the agenda item, that the memo that you got covered everything. So Siobhan, you can go over that as well, and who was at that meeting.
Yeah, we had a call on Friday of last week to review a draft memo, and we got some good feedback that we incorporated into the memo that went out earlier this week. So at that meeting, we had Kate Rigolia at Carleton and Julia Mate were all there. And they offered some of the feedback, including the executive summary that we'll go through in a minute, and offering the pros and cons. All right, so we have not put together a recommendation for how the board should act, but we're asking the board to provide us direction on whether we should accept or reject the hydro and or nuclear allocations. Next slide, please. All right, so this should mostly match what was in the board packet. We just wanted to outline a couple of key items. This is a short-term solution for 2021 and possibly 2022 and 2023. PG&E will make that determination at a later date. Accepting or rejecting these allocations will not impact our longer-term goal to be 100% renewable by 2025 on a time coincident basis, and it will not impact our trajectory to get to that goal. The primary question here is the trade-off between the cost savings and the potential reputational risk by showing higher levels of nuclear on the power content label. Accepting or rejecting the allocation will not impact our rates. Any cost savings associated with the allocation could be due to not needing to purchase additional carbon-free energy and the possibility of reselling any excess carbon-free allocations. Any cost savings could be used for other purposes, whether that's programs or other items. We're only receiving the carbon-free attribute. We're not receiving the actual power. And accepting or rejecting does not impact the operation of the power plants. It won't impact our delivery of energy to our customers, and it will not impact the overall California mix. It's simply an accounting mechanism. All right, next slide, please. So to provide a little bit of background, and we went through this earlier this year, but just to go through it again, PG&E owns or contracts for greenhouse gas-free energy. This includes large hydro facilities and the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant. In 2018, 13% of PG&E supply was from large hydro and 34% was from nuclear. PG&E can count these resources on their power content label to meet or exceed their own greenhouse gas-free targets. Meanwhile, CCA customers are paying for these resources through the PCIA. We're not currently able to claim or count the benefit of these resources on our power content label or in connection with other greenhouse gas-free reporting. We expect this will be addressed through a longer-term solution through the PCIA proceeding that's ongoing right now. We expect that to be finalized sometime next year. Next slide, please. In 2019, PG&E files an advice letter proposing to allocate some of these carbon-free resources to load-serving entities in PG&E's territory, including CCAs, based on our load share. This advice letter in 2019 applied to 2020 only. Each LSE had the option to accept each resource allocation, the hydro or the nuclear separately. And then the volume of the allocation will be based on the actual generation and each LSE's load share. Next slide, please. That advice letter was ultimately approved by the CPUC based on the board direction earlier this year. In June 2020, Peninsula Clean Energy signed an agreement with PG&E to accept the hydro allocations for June 15 through December 31. We expect these allocations to be about 90,000 to 105,000 megawatt hours. We are calculating that based on historical generation from the hydro facilities that were included in that portfolio. What we actually will receive will depend on actual generation for the time period from June 15th through December 31. Next, please. In August of this year, PG&E filed a second advice letter to extend the allocation process for 2021 and potentially for 2022 and 2023 at PG&E's discretion. For those second 2 years, they would need to submit their own advice letters to activate this. And then again, we expect the longer term allocation to be provided through the PCIA proceeding, hopefully next year. Next slide, please. Just as a reminder, starting in 2021, we're targeting our portfolio to be 100% greenhouse gas free. So 60% of that would come from renewable energy and 40% from greenhouse gas free resources that are not counting towards the RPS, such as large hydro. And this will step up each year to 70% renewable in 2022 and 80% in 2023, with the remainder coming from the non-RPS greenhouse gas free resources. Next slide, please. We expect to be allocated these volumes for the hydro and the nuclear. It's about 240,000 per year from hydro and 867,000 from nuclear. This is assuming that we get the allocation for the full year, starting January 1 through December 31. The CPUC has not yet approved PG&E's advice letter. Once they approve it and PG&E makes an offer to us, we have 30 days to sign an agreement. So if the advice letter isn't approved until later, we don't receive the allocation until further in 2021, this volume would go down. We've analyzed this based on historic generation data for the different resources that PG&E is allocating. For large hydro, we looked at generation similar to 2014, which was a drier year. So we consider this to be a somewhat conservative estimate. For nuclear, we're looking at average. Next slide, please.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing her.
Yeah, Siobhan, I don't know if you know, I think you're frozen. She's in a spot where her internet's not as good as
Next
normal.
slide, please. Is that better? I stopped the video to try to free up internet bandwidth.
That's better. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we put together 3 different options. So option 1 assumes we continue for the future years what we did this year. We accept the hydro, but not the nuclear. And then we would procure additional hydropower to meet any of our remaining open position to get to our greenhouse gas free targets. The second option we looked at is we accept both the hydro and the nuclear, but we prioritize the hydro on our power content label. So we would use our current hydro plus the PG&E hydro allocations first to meet our targets, and we'd only use the nuclear to fill in our open position. So that's going to minimize the nuclear on the power content label. In option 3, we assume we accept both, but we are prioritizing the nuclear and selling the excess hydro. So we use the nuclear first to meet our greenhouse gas target, and then we sell any excess hydro from our current contracts or from the PG&E allocations that are in excess of our targets. Next slide, please. A couple of assumptions. Again, we're assuming in the cost scenarios that we've put together that we're receiving the allocations for the full year. We're also assuming that in option 3, we can sell any excess hydro, and we are showing two sub options with a price of either $2 per megawatt hour or $4.25 per megawatt hour. This is looking at our mid-case load scenario. It did not incorporate the Los Banos load yet, since they won't be in place for 2021. This also assumes that the nuclear does not have, we're not able to sell that, so there's no off-takers that would buy that excess nuclear from us. Next slide, please. So this is looking at calendar year 2021. The first column is option 1, where we accept the hydro only. And here we assume that the cost to fill our open position is $2 per megawatt hour, in which case, in order to fill our remaining open position, it would cost us $1.2 million. In the second section, we're assuming the cost to fill that open position is $4.25 per megawatt hour, in which case it would cost us about $2.5 million to fill the rest of our open position for greenhouse gas targets. So as a reminder, in option 1, we're accepting the hydro allocation from PG&E, but not the nuclear, and then we're spending either 1.2 to 2.5 million to procure additional hydro to meet our greenhouse gas targets. In the second column, in option 2, we're accepting both the hydro and the nuclear. And so in this case, we don't need to spend any additional money to fill our open position. So the difference between option 1 and option 2 is $1.2 million. We don't need to spend that to buy additional hydro because we'll fill that position with the nuclear energy. In option 3, we're assuming that we accept both and we're prioritizing the nuclear, so we have excess hydro that we could sell. In the first sub-scenario, we assume the value of that hydro is $2 per megawatt hour. So we don't need to spend any money to procure additional hydro, and we can sell our excess for about $500,000. So the difference between option 1 and option 3 at the $2 per megawatt hour is $1.6 million. And then if the value of the hydro is 4.25 million, I'm sorry, 425 per megawatt hour, we would not need to procure the 2.5 million, and then we would sell our excess for 1.2 million for a total difference between option 1 and option 3 of $3.6 million. We also looked at the possibility of having to fill our open position at the higher cost and selling it at the lower cost. So in this case, it would cost $2.5 million to buy the excess hydro in option 1, or in option 3, we'd only be able to sell any excess hydro for $2 per megawatt hour, so only $500,000. In that scenario, the difference is $3 million. So to sort of summarize, the difference in these different scenarios, in option 1, we could have to spend up to $2.5 million if the price is $4.25. And in option 3, the difference could be up to $3.6 million if we can sell the excess hydro. Let me just pause there because that was a lot of numbers. Are there any questions?
If anyone has a question, raise your hand just so I can see you. Okay, I do not see hands up. Go ahead, Ursula.
Okay, thanks. If you go to the next slide, we repeated this analysis for future years. So the assumptions are the same. The things that change is how much is our open position and how much greenhouse gas free are we targeting. So here the cost under option 1 would be between $500,000 to $1 million. and the difference would be between $500,000 to $3.6 million. And if we go to the next slide, we looked at this analysis also for 2023. In 2023, our greenhouse gas-free target is lower, it's only 20%. So here, the cost to procure the excess hydro would be between $180,000 to $380,000. But we expect we would be able to sell under option 3 up to $2.7 million. Next slide, please. And this slide is looking at over all 3 years, what is that potential impact? So the potential difference, in the largest difference would be $10 million, and the smallest difference would be $1.8 million. So in option 1, across the 3 years, we could spend between $1.8 to $4 million procuring hydro to fill our open position. Or we could potentially sell that over the 3 years for up to $6 million at the highest price, or $3.3 million at the lower price. Next slide.
Siobhan, just to clarify here, so over that 3-year period, our entire energy budget would be something between $600 and $650 million. Is that accurate?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. That's great context. Yes, our energy budget is about a little over $200 million per year. So over 3 years, maybe $600 to $650 million.
Okay, thanks.
So then we looked at what would be the impact of these different options on our power content label for each year. So under option 1, we're not accepting any nuclear. So the green here is our renewable target. So 60% in 2021 and going up to 80% in 2023. And then the remainder of our portfolio would come from the hydropower, which is the blue stack in this chart. Next, please. Under option 2, we're accepting the nuclear, but prioritizing the hydro. So our renewable would stay the same. Our hydro in 2021 would be 21%, would be about 22% in 2022, and 17% in 2023, with the remainder coming from nuclear. So in 2021, it's about 19%, 2022, 8%, in 2023, 3%. And then the last option is where we prioritize the nuclear and sell the excess hydro. And so in this scenario, we see the largest nuclear on our power content label. So we expect we would get about 28% of our supply could come from nuclear allocations. So that's staying the same in 2021 and 2022. Our renewable targets staying the same. And then the remainder is being filled in with hydro. In 2023, we only have 20% of our greenhouse gas free target. So that would be fully filled by the nuclear, and we would sell any of the excess hydro. Next slide. And then this is showing the same information, just all on one chart. So in gray at the bottom, you can see the renewable target stays the same in all scenarios. And then we have just different expectations of how much we would get from hydro or nuclear, depending on which option we choose to move forward with. Next, please. So we also wanted to point out the potential risks in our analysis. So for option 3, the savings that we showed are based on our ability to sell that excess hydro at the prices that we assumed, which were between $2 to $4.25 per megawatt hour. Prices today are closer to the $4. But if there were no demand, or if prices were lower, that savings would be lowered. Actual generation may differ from our projection. We tried to be conservative in our projections, but if we had a particularly low year of hydro, if there were plant outages that would impact what we received. Our analysis is also based on our mid-case load forecast. If our load differed dramatically, that could impact how much we would need to procure to meet our targets. There's also the possibility that PG&E decides not to make allocations for 2022 and 2023. And then also the possibility that we don't receive the allocations until later in the year. In most hydro generation, a lot of hydro generation happens in the spring from the winter runoff. So if PG&E doesn't make the allocations until later in the year, they could have a very big impact on what we receive for the hydro allocations. Next, please. So we also polled our other CCAs. Silicon Valley and San Jose both do plan to accept the PG&E nuclear allocation. Central Coast Community Power used to be Monterey Bay. Sonoma Clean Power SF, Marin, and East Bay all plan to reject the nuclear allocation. And all CCAs indicated they're not changing their decision from what they did for the 2020 allocation. Next slide, please. As we mentioned already earlier in the meeting, we met with the CAC at their meeting 2 weeks ago. They voted 7-3 to reject the nuclear and accept the hydro, and to follow the same path as 2020. There was also one abstention. The conversation and concerns that they expressed included the perceptions related to showing nuclear on the power content label versus the potential cost savings from accepting the nuclear. Some members felt that accepting the nuclear was not in keeping with PCE's organizational values. And some members also pointed out that large hydro has negative environmental impacts as well. There are also questions about whether this decision would impact our goal to move to 100% renewable. It won't. And also about what our most recent power content mix looks like. So we included the link to that here and in the board packet. Next slide, please. So we also wanted to show the pros and cons for the 3 different options we went over. So option 1, the pro is that we would not show any nuclear on the power content label. The con is that it's potentially higher cost because we'd have to procure carbon-free attributes in the market to meet the remainder of our target. In all cases, one of the requirements is that we waive our right to make petitions in the PCIA proceeding about PG&E not allocating carbon-free energy, because if we accept this, they have offered it to us. In option 2, we have some cost savings because we're not procuring any more hydro, and we can use that for other purposes. We would show nuclear on our power content label, and that may be viewed negatively is the con. In option 3, we have the highest cost savings because we can resell the excess hydro. The cons are that we would show the highest % of nuclear on our power content label, and that may be viewed negatively. Next slide, please. All right, that is the end of the presentation. So again, we didn't make a recommendation, but we're asking for your direction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Siobhan. I'm going to start by taking public comments on this, if any, and then we will bring it back to the board for a discussion.
But Jeff, if there's questions of clarification, can we clarify that before we take public comments?
If there's questions or clarification, it's just last time I did that, we got into discussion. So if there are questions or clarification.
Right. I have a genuine question of clarification.
If there are questions, we'll take them first. Okay, go ahead, Rick. And then
so Siobhan, can you go back one slide? Yeah, my question is on the con, the waiver of our right down here at the bottom that's under all three options, is that waiving the right to proceed? You say proceed regarding PG&E allocation of carbon-free energy. Is that dealing with the attributes, not the power? Is it?
That's right, is with the carbon-free attributes.
Okay, thank you.
If I can just follow up, same question, but same topic, different question. Is this, can staff say, I don't know how to value this statement?
Yeah.
Can you say a little bit more about what that means in terms of what we might do otherwise? Would be great.
Yep. The reason that this allocation came about is in the PCIA proceeding, CCAs and other LSCs were concerned that our customers were paying for these resources, but not receiving any of the greenhouse gas-free value of them. And so PG&E, instead of adding value to these resources, decided to allocate them to us. As part of that allocation, we don't pay for the resources, but we also can't, in the PCIA proceeding, that for the year we've accepted the allocations, we cannot say that PG&E hasn't offered them. So our feeling is that this is a very small thing to give up because it only applies to that year where we've received the allocations. And we're basically saying we won't say they didn't offer them since they did offer them to us.
So it doesn't take away from our general concerns about the PCIA generally.
That's correct. Doesn't take away our ability to express concerns about the PCIA generally.
Thank you.
It's limited, yeah.
Okay. Yep. Thank you for that. Rick Bonilla, questions?
We actually polled any members of the public to find out what they think.
Actually, we have. And KJ is here, KJ Janowski is here to speak to that. She did, in fact, survey the public on this back in March. KJ, go ahead.
A little refresher on that would be good.
Yeah.
So I'm going to speak briefly just from memory, and I can dig up the results and share them if you want me to do that later on in the meeting. I'd have to look through my files to pull those up. But the gist of the findings were we put in front of about 350 of our residential customers two different power content labels. One had a nuclear on it and the other had more hydro on it. And we asked them, what did they think of those two different, did they have a preference? We didn't give them any difference in cost, but we asked them about their preferences. And then we asked them open-ended questions about why they chose which one they chose. And there was a mix of reactions. The plurality of respondents preferred the one without nuclear, but there were also quite a number of the respondents, and I can get you the exact numbers, quite a number of the respondents who preferred the allocation with nuclear because they had concerns about the hydro and also because they saw nuclear as an interesting part of the mix as we're making our way to fully renewable. We also then asked them what would they think of the, and what would they do? What actions would they take if they found out that they had, say, of those people who chose to preferred the ones that didn't have nuclear, the PCL that did not have nuclear, we asked them what actions they would take. And so they gave us a range of responses of the kinds of things that they would do. My recollection was that, those who had chosen to not have the nuclear, they preferred no nuclear on their PCL, would do things like talk to their friends and family, look for an option that had all renewable, look for an option that did not have nuclear, which are options that we do offer. And then another action that they might take is, I think it was about 18% of them said they might contact their elected officials. And these are all prospective, what I might do if I felt this way. So it was a mix of different reactions. It wasn't extremely strong in terms of the actions that would be taken. And we did get some good insights into a lot of really interesting questions that people had. Like, why would you do it? Is it going to be adding nuclear to the grid? If you didn't take the nuclear, what would be the implications? So we have a lot of rich information about the types of questions that they would want to have answered if we were going to add nuclear to the mix.
Thank you.
Thanks, KJ.
Sure.
Any other board questions for staff first? Okay, I do not see any other hands raised from the board. Any public comment at this time? Okay, I do not see any hands raised for public comment, so I'll bring it back for discussion. And I'll just take a minute here. Donna and I were on the CAC meeting where they discussed the same question, and you heard a summary of that before. I think the summaries you got previously were pretty complete. You know, several people were concerned about putting nuclear on the power content label. A few people actually felt like we should accept neither of them, that even hydro has its own complications. I think, you know, the one thing I'll just repeat from what Siobhan said is this decision has no bearing on what actually happens on the electric grid in California. Diablo Canyon is going to produce power through 2025, and all of that power is going to go onto the grid. PG&E's large hydro is going to produce power during that time, and it's all going to go onto the grid. So it's going to have no impact on the grid's operations. It's going to have no impact on overall greenhouse gas emissions. It is almost entirely sort of an accounting question on our part. It also has no impact on our strategy for getting to time coincident renewables by 2025. So this is sort of, I mean, to me, this question reduces to the question of are we willing to accept nuclear and large hydro on our power content label in exchange for you know, a financial benefit of between $1 and $10 million over 2 years. That's my 2 cents. I will let others comment on that.
Jeff, I have just a quick question for Siobhan, please.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Siobhan, you said a couple of times that nobody would buy the excess nuclear from us. Why is that?
Yeah, we checked with a couple of marketers in the industry that would be the most likely people to buy the excess nuclear, and they expressed that there was no market for the nuclear, that it's not as commonly used to meet greenhouse gas free targets, and so generally it hasn't been available in the past to do that. But that was the feedback we received.
But just note, this isn't the power. This is only the attribute.
That's right.
Could you explain that for people that aren't with that totally?
Siobhan, do you want to explain that?
Yeah, so the attributes represent the environmental benefits of the power. So we wouldn't be receiving the actual electricity. It would still flow onto the grid the same way as it normally would. We're just paying a premium for that greenhouse gas free nature of the power so that we can count it on our power content label.
Does it offset other carbon containing energy that we do get from the grid for us?
For us, yes, it would offset any system power that we're procuring from the grid directly.
I see. Thank you.
But can I add one more thing? The attribute does not get created unless the power is produced. So although we're not taking the power at the time it's produced, we're only being allocated the attributes. Those attributes don't get generated unless the power is produced. So, yeah, so if, for example, yeah, so if, for example, PG&E gave away all the attributes for the power, it would, I mean, it would still have the power, but it's kind of just accounting. But the power is still being generated. It's not like that nuclear power is not being generated, or the hydropower for for that matter.
When we negotiated the contract, we would get a contract, there would be a price.
Jeff, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I think I was covering my mic. When we were negotiating power contracts, on our hedges in particular, the bulk of the price would be the actual power, and then there'd be an adder for greenhouse gas free or a different adder for things that met their RPS standards. In our case, they were bundled, but in this case, we'd be accepting what was kind of an unbundled attribute, in that PG&E is going to produce the power no matter what. But we are not accepting the actual power. So, sorry, I don't know if that clarified anything or not. Deidre's got her hand up. Deidre, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So Jeff, I agree with most of what you said, except one of the things that you said was that it is mostly a financial decision. And while, yes, I do agree with that, I don't think it's the only decision. A lot of us talked last time about optics, and I was trying to think of a comparison, and we were talking earlier about labor union. And the difference, I think, here is that there is energy available, whereas in the other scenario, we don't have the labor available. So it's one thing to like stick to our guns on kind of policy and stuff like that. But when we have the ability, when we have the means, and it is in a way about optics, I don't think it's purely a financial decision. So I'm just kind of curious. We voted on this same topic not too long ago. So for those that may be reconsidering a different vote this evening, what, if anything, has sort of changed your mind? And I'm kind of interested in hearing that from others too, to expand my thoughts.
Thanks, Deidre. No, you're right. It's an accounting decision. So it's the financial decision versus the perception decision. So it is not purely financial. I agree. I think the question in front of us, sort of in terms of how to think, I don't think that's changed. I think the question is, we would be it'd be the same as the last time we voted. We would be adding nuclear power to our power content label in exchange for basically a savings of, between $1 and $10 million over 3 years. I think it's the same trade-off we were talking about 6 months ago when we made it. If others want to opine on that, I'm happy to hear them. We're voting on it again, partly just because we didn't come to a firm decision on nuclear energy policy. We decided on last year's allocation, and we're deciding on a new allocation.
Right, but tonight's not about policy, right? It's just about a new year, right?
It's about 1 new year and possibly 3 new years. Yeah.
Okay.
And again, that's a good point, because no, nuclear is going away in 2025, barring some dramatic developments in the field. And we're talking about whether we would accept this, a financial benefit in exchange for putting nuclear on our power content label. So, okay. Donna's got her hand up next. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Jeff. So regardless of the outcome here, I just want to congratulate the staff and the committee for creating a very robust and fact-based report. I feel like it was a very objective report. Siobhan, thank you very much. Your explanation was clear. And again, regardless of which option people prefer, I feel like we had a much better beginning and understanding of the costs and the impacts and the options. So I really just wanted to thank them for that. The only comment I'm really going to make is that for those people who have a real aversion to any one of these mixes, whether it's the acceptance of the hydro, the large hydro, or the nuclear, I just want to remind everybody, for those people, they can always opt up to Eco 100, which is a completely greenhouse gas free and renewable product that we do offer in our portfolio. So for people who maybe, clients who are just completely averse to it, we do offer a product that meets their need.
Thank you, Donna. Agreed. Pradeep, go ahead.
Thank you, Jeff. I just wanted to make a few points. One, the nuclear energy is produced by PG&E for its customers, and PCE customers do not get nuclear energy produced by PG&E. Number two, our power content label is a sort of report card to our customers on how we are meeting our needs for energy and how we are progressing towards the clean energy future. And putting nuclear component on that power content label, which is one of the very few numbers that our customers get out of all the discussions we have detailed in the board, it will be, in my opinion at least, it will be misleading that we are accepting nuclear options seriously. And I have nothing against nuclear option, but I think that option needs to be considered in a very detailed policy manner in terms of whether PCE wants to go towards nuclear options in a carefully determined way. Number three, these are attributes, and I wanted to emphasize the difference between attribute and energy. Sometimes it's confusing. As far as the PUC is concerned, every time there is 1 unit of electricity produced by a nuclear reactor in PG&E, it has 3 components. One, the energy itself, like megawatt hour we talk about, which is same as energy produced by hydro or produced by gas or produced by solar. Number two, the attribute. Attribute in terms of whether it's GHG free or it is renewable or not. That's attribute. That's a component. And third component is the RA value, the reliability value of that particular resource. So in this particular case, we are only talking about one of the 3 components, namely attributes. So we are not going to get any energy. None of our customers got any nuclear energy. So to me, to put nuclear option on our power content will be misleading, in my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pradeep. Rick DeGolia, go ahead.
So I just want to start by saying that I think that the staff presentation today was really excellent. And it is so much clearer this year than it was 6 months ago. So I'm thinking about what Deirdre expressed, and I don't think that we really understood when we discussed this last time that we weren't talking about the energy. We didn't understand that this is just the attributes. And, you know, I don't know what the best analogy is. I was thinking to myself, well, maybe it's like different liquids with one is flavored with a cola flavor and one is flavored with an orange or a lemon lime flavor. And we're not dealing with the liquid, we're just dealing with the flavor. So in this case, it's the attributes, and the attributes have some value to us because we're committed to having a percentage of our power be greenhouse gas free. And we either have to buy that power, which we do, or we have to buy the attributes separated from the power, which we also do. And we do that as a regular basis, not just in this situation. The issue in this situation is, I think, a trade-off. I think the waiver issue, which I was one of the advocates to put this second bullet point that you're looking at down on the bottom of the page in here, because it is in the PG&E contract that we give it up. But in fact, I don't think there's any way we're gonna complain about the attribute, whether we take it or not. So like Siobhan said, this is sort of sleeves off the vest. But the first bullet point in the cons is real. If you think that it's really a problem for PCE to have on its power content label any percentage of what looks like nuclear power, even though we know it's not nuclear power, which is Pradeep's issue, which is it's just the attribute. And that's a California PUC problem. And it probably is a problem that originates with PG&E because of the way that they're in bed with PG&E. But that I agree with Pradeep. That's misleading. Nobody would understand it for all of those that happen to look at it, which I think is relatively few. But if you really feel strongly about it, then you shouldn't vote. You should vote for option 1, and we should pay the $1 to $10 million to not take the attributes from PG&E. If you don't think that's such a big deal, and you think there's more value to our customers to have, you know, those dollars put into either programs or rebates over time, then we should vote for either option 2 or 3. And
This is a
option
Faustian
2,
agreement.
say it again. Go ahead.
Everyone mute themselves, please. If you're not talking, I'm hearing some background noise, sorry.
I thought that was a question. Well, option 3 obviously has a higher percentage of the nuclear content because we'd be prioritizing the nuclear, and we'd be selling the hydro attribute. In fact, both of these attributes are just enable you to claim that you have greenhouse gas free power. But I personally think that there is a financial issue here because our customers have already paid for this by paying the PCIA. And I think there's a fundamental problem with the PCIA that we really have to get to over the next year, and the Cal CCA has to lead us on. That's not the issue before us tonight, but I think it's a huge issue and that this plays into it. Personally, I think from an economic perspective, I'm not disturbed if our power content label shows 10 to 3% nuclear. I know that there's a bunch of people in the CCA movement that have tried to politicize this issue by saying if you accept these nuclear attributes, then you're supporting nuclear power. And I don't think that's right. I think that's a total red herring. That there is a political issue regarding nuclear power that at some point we should deal with. But in this case, it's an issue of whether we feel that having any percentage of nuclear on the power content label is a serious problem for PCE versus the savings that we will obtain by not having to spend the money to go out and buy these attributes from another provider.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rick. Ann Schneider's got her hand up. Go ahead, Ann.
Thank you. Being an alternate, I'm not fully up to speed on this. I'm not a fan of nuclear. However, we're not buying the energy, and are we somehow helping that physical plant get shut down? Are we talking about Diablo Canyon, or is there another source that we're getting this from?
This is Diablo Canyon, and this decision has no bearing on, I mean, Diablo Canyon will shut down in 2025, regardless of whether we accept or reject the allocation.
Having worked on how to handle waste at end of life, that's still out there. But to spend $1 to $10 million for something that's going to go away, I would be okay, golly, I would be okay with the nuclear. I liked whoever put, maybe it was Donna, that people who feel very strongly can go to 100% green and not have that. I think if the public heard that we're trying to save them $1 to $10 million in the middle of a pandemic recession, that it'll play out okay.
Thank you, Ann. Daniel, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. I do find the staff report very, very clear. So thank you to the staff and to the board members that had input on it. I also agree this is a financial versus perception issue. I'm thinking back to the last time we discussed this, and I felt like there was a lot more testimony that we received then about the negative perceptions of nuclear. And I don't know if that's changed. I was listening to KJ's summary, and it seemed sort of more balanced and nuanced. And so I don't know if that's because we went out again a separate time and people's views have changed or not. So, you know, it is difficult, I think, for all of us to, you know, there's something very quantifiable. It's difficult for me, at least. There's something very quantifiable on one side, dollars, and the perception piece is a bit more squishy. And so I don't know if there's more to be said on that, you know, whether it's on the marketing side or from, you know, feedback from the Citizens Advisory Committee, which I understand went against accepting it. I mean, I'll say of the three options, option 3, while it saves the most money, seems like it has the bigger perception risk, because when you look at those labels, it really looks like we're getting the vast majority of our non-renewable power from nuclear. But you know, I'll say for myself, as the perennial undecided guy, that, you know, I'm toyed between option 1 and 2, and feel like getting a little bit more info about public perceptions and depth of them. And the fact that we do have an answer, hey, you can go to 100% renewable, is helpful. So I'll just throw that out there as what I'm listening for in this conversation to make a decision, and leave it up to anyone who feels qualified to provide further information. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. I'll let KJ speak in terms of the marketing data that we have, the survey data. Go ahead, KJ.
Sure. I have the slides in front of me now. I don't know if I can share, if the host wants to let me share. I don't know if Shane or Andy can do that, but I have one or two that I could summarize for you. Is it possible to share? Okay, there we go. Okay, so can you see this slide?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a slide that we asked, though we had 350 people respond to this. So 91 of them said that they preferred the version of the PCL that included nuclear, and 208 said they preferred the version that had no nuclear, and then several said no preference. Then we asked them, what would you do if you found out that you had this kind of a mix in the energy that was being delivered to your household? We gave them a whole list of choices. We let them select as many of these as they wished. And looking at this column here in the middle, which is the nuclear free, those who preferred the nuclear free, about a quarter of them said, I wouldn't do anything. But the remainder said, I would do things like shop, 47% would shop for an option that does not include nuclear. 37% would shop for an option that only uses renewables. A third would discuss the change with family and friends. These are some of the options that they would take. They would contact the electricity supplier, 18%. They would contact an elected official, 16%. So those are the kinds of actions that they would take. I think that sheds a little bit of light on things. We also asked them, what would you think of the reputation? How would your opinion change with the reputation of the provider of this electricity? And then what we discovered was those who said nuclear free said they would, 56% of them said, yes, I would change my perception, and 25 said they wouldn't change. And of those who did, they had some specific concerns. But I think the main issue is shown here on this slide, and that's in terms of the actions that they would take. And as Donna said, we do offer these options for those who would like to not have any nuclear, if they wanted to go to Eco 100, et cetera. Does that answer some of the questions, Daniel?
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
I would note, this is Jan, that we do offer Eco 100, but that's not discounted at 5%. It's a premium product. It's an additional 5% to go to that. So it's
That
not
is correct.
an apples and apples comparison here on that.
That is right. And we didn't ask these folks about how they would feel if they had a different price. That's a very good point.
Yep. Thank you both. Catherine has her hand up next. Go, Catherine.
Hi, yes. Thank you for the report. It was very clear, really good report with a lot of data in it. And I'm happy to see these surveys that you did of people and what they think. It is a perception issue. And my problem is people say, well, we're only getting the attributes instead of the power. Try to explain that to a layperson who has not been involved in PCE for years, because they won't understand that. They'll see the word nuclear, and if they don't like nuclear power, then they're not going to be happy about it. So that perception problem, it is a problem. The Eco 100, as Jan just pointed out, and I was going to point out, it isn't discounted as much. So if you tell them, okay, you have this other option, but you're going to have to pay more, then they're doubly not going to be happy with PCE. So I stick with my my vote last time, and I'd go with option 1. I just think that the perception problem is an issue for PCE. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Julia has her hand up. Go ahead, Julia.
You're on mute, Julia.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I want to thank Jan and Siobhan also for this staff report. I know when we were meeting with you last week, we were doing it in real time and throwing a lot out at you at some suggestions. And I think the pros and cons table, I mean, that's usually how I make the decisions. So that's very helpful, as well as the breakdown on the financial piece, because I think then we're actually talking real numbers and we're able to see that. So thank you very much. You know, I think when we are coming to this discussion with the financial versus perception issue, I don't think I've changed my mind on this either. Mostly because, you know, if there's a savings of $1 to $10 million and where the customers have already paid this through the PCIA, again, I think that's also an optics concern. Unfortunately, it sounds like maybe we didn't ask our customers in the survey. We asked them about the content label, but we didn't say, what if you found out that you already had paid for something through the PCIA, and then we basically paid for something again with a few $1 million because we wanted to leave the nuclear off the content label. What would you do then? Would you take it to social media that PCE spent this money that they didn't have to spend and that had already been paid for by the customer? So I think, you know, that's something that we talked a little bit about last year that I think we really have to think about as well. You know, the other thing I was going to mention is with the savings, we could put it back into programs, or we could also offer a rebate. I know we did that before, and I'm sure that at this time during COVID and everything else, it would probably be to get a rebate. So there are things we could do with that money that would also be helpful, I think, for our customers. So I'm probably not going to change my mind on this, but again, thank you so much for such a good staff report.
Thanks, Julia. Kat is next. Go ahead, Kat.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so I feel really strongly that saying to someone, hey, you can pay 5% more for your electric bill if you don't like nuclear power, that is insulting. If you told me that, I would be appalled. People have made it very clear that they do not like nuclear. Therefore, it really doesn't make sense for us to be the clean energy leader and voting for nuclear. And when you put something on your label, that's a vote for it. That's saying that you support it. You know, we've established that we're dealing with perceptions and not electricity, and these perceptions really count. Nuclear is not clean energy, and it harms our brand reputation. And I think that regardless of all the other details on the payment, it's worth the investment to keep our reputation clean. There's a lot of money spent on marketing. There's a lot of money spent on making sure that our brand is respected. And I will never vote for nuclear power to be on that brand. It takes us down a notch. And the research that's been presented to us tonight illustrates that. People don't want to see nuclear power. They don't want to feel that they're voting for that. So anyway, I'm not changing how I obviously would vote either. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kat. Dave Pine, go ahead.
Oh, thanks. I think this is the third time we've had this discussion, and it's always a good one. And I also want to echo, everyone's thanks for the great staff report and the committee work. To Rick DeGoya's point, we probably understand it better than ever. But in the end of the day, it really is a philosophical decision, I think. On the customer response side, KJ, didn't we ask like 15,000 people and we only got a small response or something?
We actually sent out an opportunity to respond to the survey to 17,500 residents. And we did get survey completions from 350, but that is fairly typical when you're trying to get people to respond to a survey. You're not going to get all of them.
Oh, no, of course. I just think it's hard to, it's very hard to quantify the perception issue. It's my judgment that it would not be materially harmful to the business. But the main driver has been said is that if you really feel that you don't want the PCE to touch nuclear in any way, then you're going to vote no. And if you're more comfortable with nuclear, I think you're going to vote yes. To my mind, in setting up PCE, the number one imperative to me personally was to reduce carbon emission. So I'm more open to nuclear than some, and I understand reasonable people can disagree on that. But the idea of having extra money to invest in programs to further reduce carbon is kind of in line of how I look at the business anyway. But it's fundamentally, this is a fundamentally a philosophical decision, I think.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Ian's up next. Go ahead, Ian.
Thank you, Jeff. I'll say nothing has changed my opinion since we last spoke to this, so I'll be brief. But I actually wanted to ask if any of our staff have any information on whether any customers have opted out. Are we still, last I checked, we were at the lowest opt-out rate in the state. Has anyone opted out actually as a result of this showing up on their bill?
So we, do you want to go, Jen? Go ahead.
Nope.
This hasn't shown up on the power content label. So this would be a future impact for it to show up on the 2021 power content label.
Okay, got
and
it.
as far as opt-outs, we've stayed pretty steady.
Yeah, okay. So last time we discussed this, there was a lot of concern expressed over whether or not the media would do some sort of a hit piece on us and call us hypocrites. And I expressed my feeling at the time that that was not the case. Specifically, given our low awareness, and no disrespect to our marketing team, but we have a lot to do to build awareness of who PCE is in the first place. And my feeling is if someone doesn't like it, they really don't have anywhere else to go. They're not going to go to PG&E. So I think the reputational risk, I'll say it again, is to Daniel's point, I think it's very low. But the financial risk is high. If we waste money just to make a statement, a philosophical statement, if you want to call it that, that's money we could be putting towards programs. It's money we could be doing to electrify apartment buildings or further reach codes. So I'm in favor of accepting this allocation. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. Rick Bonilla, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So with regards to what Donna said about you can opt up to 100%, looking at my bill right now, $2.16 a month is what it costs me to be with Echo 100. Okay, so it's not much money, and it does give you the ability to know that you are not using any nuclear. Okay, although I still do have an issue with nuclear just because of what it is. It like Dave said, philosophical question. I don't believe that, especially, well, this one especially, built on a fault and then another fault a mile away, 3 miles away. It's never should have been there, but it is there. It's producing power. And I have a feeling, though, and I'm not normally a conspiracy theorist, but I really feel like PG&E's trying to hang this around our neck and hurt our brand. Okay, I think that could be part of their motivation. I know they have other reasons, okay, but they probably figure that would be good too. So I really feel like we don't need it. I would prefer option one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rick. I will ask one more time if there is any public comment on this, because it's been a while. If you can raise your hands. I don't see any hands raised, so I'll wrap this up and then we could entertain a motion. This has been a complicated discussion every time it's come up. This trade-off between sort of the perception or even just, might even say the principle of accepting nuclear versus the financial benefits. I guess my feeling about it is this, that there would be a financial benefit of accepting both the nuclear and large hydro allocations. And I would feel more strongly about accepting it if I felt like either that amount of money, that $1 to $10 million, would have a real impact on our operations. And I don't mean to be cavalier about, leaving, multiple $1 million on the table, but the difference between option one and option 2 or 3 is a few $1 million. But the fact is we will not change rates for customers based on this decision. And we will probably, and I believe we will offer all the programs we were offering before, regardless of which option we choose. And so it has, to my mind, it has no impact on our overall financial situation or on our ability to do what we need to do, in that it won't affect our credit rating. That's my 2 cents on it. And I guess I've gone back and forth on this, but I do agree. I don't like the idea of the nuclear on our label because it does feel like kind of a vote for it. Again, that's my 2 cents. So I will probably be voting the way that I voted last time on this. But if there are any other comments, you can raise your hands now. Otherwise, I can entertain a motion to accept one of these options.
I move to accept option 1.
Is there a second for
Second.
Okay, the motion is to accept option 1, which is to accept the hydro but not the nuclear. Is there any further discussion on this? Okay, I see no hands raised, so we will move to a roll call vote, Anne.
Okay, if you would please announce your approval or disapproval of the motion to accept option 1 when I announce your jurisdiction. County of San Mateo. Do I have the County of San Mateo?
Sorry, that's a no.
County of San Mateo. Carol? Did we lose Carol?
see
Okay.
her.
He's on. He's there somewhere. Just why don't you come back to her?
Okay.
She's
Town
there.
of, Town of Atherton,
No.
City of Belmont,
No.
City of Brisbane, City of Burlingame,
No.
Town of Colma, City of Daly City,
Yes.
City of East Palo Alto,
Yes.
City of Foster City,
Yes.
City of Half Moon Bay, Town of Hillsborough,
No.
City of Los Banos,
This is to accept a yes vote accepts option 1. Is that correct?
that
Yes.
is correct.
Okay, no.
City of Menlo Park,
Yes.
City of Millbrae, City of Millbrae,
Yeah.
That's a no.
City of Pacifica,
Yes.
Town of Portola Valley,
Yes.
City of Redwood City,
No.
City of San Bruno,
No.
City of San Carlos,
Yes.
City of San Mateo,
Yes.
City of South San Francisco,
Yes.
Town of Woodside,
I'm gonna go no on this one.
okay, and I am going back to Carol Groom, County of San Mateo.
Yes.
Okay,
Tied by my count.
What is,
I think it's yes by one.
yeah, I've got 9 no's. 10 yeses.
I had 10 no's and 10 yeses. Did I miscount?
I had 10 and 9.
I also had 10 and 10.
Oh, I'm sorry. That is correct. I'm sorry. Ann Schneider, the alternate. So I'm sorry. That is 10 and 10. So we've got a tie here.
So it doesn't pass.
does not pass.
Would someone like to make another motion?
We need a second motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion for option 2.
And I second.
Okay, the motion is to accept option 2. Okay. And roll call vote, please.
Okay. Option 2, please announce your approval or disapproval of the motion when I announce your jurisdiction. County of San Mateo.
Dave or Carol?
Carol's voting no.
Okay.
Voting, I'm sorry, it's Dave, no.
No, okay. Town of Atherton.
Yes.
City of Belmont.
Yes.
City of Brisbane. City of Burlingame.
Yes.
Town of Colma. City of Daly City.
No.
City of East Palo Alto.
No.
City of Foster City.
No.
City of Half Moon Bay. Town of Hillsborough.
Yes.
City of Los Banos.
Yes.
City of Menlo Park.
No.
City of Millbrae.
No.
City of Pacifica.
No.
Town of Portola Valley.
No.
City of Redwood City.
No.
City of San Bruno.
Yes.
City of San Carlos.
No.
City of San Bruno, or sorry, of San Mateo, City of San Mateo.
Certificate of naturalization.
No.
Sorry, thank you, Rick Bonilla. City of South San Francisco.
No.
Town of Woodside.
Yes.
I have 12 no's on that one.
So, Jeff, wouldn't there be like a call for a weighted vote on the first vote? I would hate to do that, but I'm just curious.
Oh, I forgot. I didn't even think to ask for that. We've never done it before.
Any member, any director can call for a weighted vote.
I hate to do that, but
We've
Curious.
had two motions fail now. Okay, so I think our options would be we vote on option 3 or we call for a weighted vote on option 1, I guess. Somebody want to make a motion, one of those two motions?
Could you explain the weighted vote option, please?
Yeah, please. What is a weighted vote?
Jennifer, do you want to explain it? Or I could do it too.
Sure.
Jennifer should explain it.
Yeah.
Sure. So there is a weighted vote scheme that is basically attributed to power use in each of the jurisdictions. And those are numbers that would be attributed, and each of the votes would be weighted according to those figures based on the jurisdictions that you're voting from.
I would make a motion for a weighted vote on option 1.
Can I just,
Second.
raise one point? Okay, it's moved, seconded by, was that Carol seconded?
Yes, sir.
I have a question for council, which is, I believe that for a motion to pass, it has to have a majority of both the total board members and the weighted portion, is that right?
Correct. So at this point, there's not a majority for either option 1 or 2.
Unless someone were to change their vote on this motion.
Correct.
That's a good point.
So should we call for motion 3? I mean, at least run by,
Yeah.
make a
I'll
motion
move.
for option 3?
Wait a second. So in other words,
We have a motion on the table.
We ought to take a second to explain to everyone again the way it works. Is when you do the weighted vote, you can't pass something with a weighted vote alone. It has to have.
You need a majority of both the absolute number of board members and the proportions of power usage.
Correct.
So if everyone voted the same way as last time, it would still not pass, even if the weighted average was a yes.
Well, you don't need to revote for the weighted vote. You have the weighted information. That's just as a calculation.
Oh,
you have to have a majority of the those voting for it to pass.
So we could calculate unless somebody's thinking they would vote differently.
I would recommend and move we vote on item 3 and then see where we're at.
Okay, so
I'll second that.
Point of clarification.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, okay, I don't have a history of a power use. So if you go to a weighted vote, where does that leave Los Banos?
So we have discussed this and have thought it out, and Los Banos will not have a weighted vote in this particular vote because there's no power use history, and that's pursuant to the JPA.
Correct. So Los Banos would not vote if you went to a weighted vote?
No, you'd still vote. Well, Jennifer, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Jeff. It's fine.
Well, I was going to say you still vote, but you would not. Your vote would not apply to the weighted vote. It would only apply to the because both the number of votes from board members and the weighted vote count.
Okay, so it wouldn't negate my vote.
The weighted vote doesn't apply here because there has to be a majority.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, So I think we will table the motion to the weighted vote for table 1 since we've already conducted that vote, and we will vote on the motion on the table from Supervisor Pine, which is for option 3, and that will be a weighted vote on option. well, we'll do it.
Can you put
Well,
the slide back up then,
Yeah.
please? Thanks.
And if I may say that there were 13 no's, not 12, 13 no's on.
I mean, a weighted
Option
vote
two.
can
No,
block
how is that
something.
possible? We've got at least 3 people are missing, aren't they? Brisbane's missing. Half Moon Bay is missing.
Yeah.
And, Colma's missing. There's only 20 of us here.
No, 21, there should be, we have 24 now, Jeff.
We have 23 now.
23.
now,
Yeah,
sorry.
Los Banos. Anyway,
Well, it
Can we
failed.
move to
regardless,
the-
it failed. So the
Wait,
motion
I
on the
mean-
table now is option 3 is to approve option 3, which
Right.
is
Percentage of nuclear.
sorry, which is
Yeah,
to
Jeff, do you want
hydronuclear and to prioritize the nuclear.
do you want a different slide that shows that that describes what you just said? There is a slide.
You've got it, yeah. I could share my screen too. I've got it here, but
Go back, Shana. Go back.
I keep going, yeah.
Right there.
We haven't
Peter,
even,
That's
sorry,
fine.
go ahead.
There's a slide that shows the 3 options. Is that the slide
go
you're looking
ahead.
for, Andy?
Yeah, go aheed. Go back again farther, Shana.
It has them there. I mean, you can see them under at the top.
Why do we need this slide?
Just to make sure people understood what they were voting for.
Oh, I see.
I have no clue.
Oh, okay.
This is the slide,
This-
slide 40.
someone else- Everybody take a
That's not
minute
the slide.
and take a look at this one. Just to recap, option 1 was a 10-10 tie. Option 2 failed
7 yes, 13 no.
7 to 13. And we now have a motion on option 3, which would be accepting both allocations and selling the excess hydro.
And nuclear.
Any questions on this? I'll give everyone a minute here.
I think a board member has her hand up if there's a question. I don't know.
I'm sorry.
I'll lower it. No, I'll lower it. I didn't.
You're
Sorry.
good? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
I have a question. So option 3 has more nuclear in it, right?
Or nuclear on the label.
On the label.
In option 3, we accept everything from PG&E. We sell off any hydro we don't need, and all of the nuclear stays on the label. So it would most likely result in the highest nuclear content on the power content label.
And the greatest cost savings.
Also correct, yes. Yeah, true. Regardless of the scenario, yeah.
So we should take the roll.
Yeah, if there's no other questions, I'll roll call vote, Ann.
Okay, I did have that Dave Pine made the motion, but I didn't catch who seconded.
Rick seconded.
Was it Rick? Yeah.
Was that Rick DeGolia?
Rick DeGolia, excuse me.
Yep, thank you very much. Okay, so here we go on the vote for option 3. If you would please announce your approval or disapproval when I announce your jurisdiction. County of San Mateo,
Yes.
No.
Town of Atherton,
Yes.
City of Belmont,
Yes.
City of Brisbane, City of Burlingame,
Yes.
Town of Colma, City of Daly City. Daly City,
No.
City of East Palo Alto,
No.
City of Foster City,
No.
City of Half Moon Bay, Town of Hillsborough,
Yes.
City of Los Banos,
Yes.
City of Menlo Park,
No.
City of Millbrae,
Yes.
City of Pacifica,
No.
Town of Portola Valley,
No.
City of Redwood City,
Yes.
City of San Bruno,
Yes.
City of San Carlos,
No.
City of San Mateo,
No.
City of South San Francisco,
No.
Town of Woodside,
No.
I show 11 no's. Does everyone concur?
Yep.
I've been
That's
going back
correct.
and forth.
Right,
11.
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Actually, one option that isn't up here is to accept none of the allocations. So
That's where we're at right now.
since none of
Yeah, I
the
think that's
motions
your thought there.
passed, that would be the option.
Entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make a motion.
Hold on,
Accept none.
I thought we still had a motion on the table for a weighted option 1. Whatever happened to that?
Yeah.
We tabled it because if everyone votes the same way, it would not pass. Even the weighting would make no difference because it doesn't have a majority of actual votes.
I'll second.
I'm kind of curious if that's the case, if it's got a clear winner, why would you weight it anyway?
It doesn't, well,
Those that are opposed it would have more power consumption and would want not to go with the yes.
All right.
it would be
Can I,
counted
Jeff?
power. So if you had 11 yeses, but the majority, the 9 had more usage, it would not pass. Okay, so we have a motion now to not accept any of the allocations.
I second.
Well,
Can you explain to me what that means?
Yeah.
It means we just don't take anything from PG&E.
right now,
How is that going to impact this? I don't understand what that means.
Doesn't it just mean we take what we have now?
It means we don't take anything from them, and we keep buying our hydro and nuclear as we have going forward.
Not nuclear.
We also don't waive the right
We buy
to,
our greenhouse gas free and renewable attributes as needed going forward.
and we also don't waive the right to participate in PCIA.
We don't waive the right to comment on PG&E not offering their we can, yes.
And it costs us more money, right?
yes, it does. It's the worst case financially.
Yeah.
It is, yes.
Come on, guys, let's just do option 1 again.
Yeah, the question is, does anyone want to change their vote on option 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we should do one of the options, option 1 or 2, and I'm willing to adjust my vote accordingly.
I think it's obvious at this point that option 2 and option 3, they weren't close. It's option 1 was tied.
Yep.
We'll need to put a motion back on the floor if that's the intention.
I'll put option 1 back on the floor, Deirdre
I'll
Martin.
second that.
Okay, moved by Deidre, seconded by Kat. Option 1. And roll call vote, please.
Okay, here we go. Voting on option 1, second vote. Okay. If you would,
Question before
sorry.
we vote.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, can you do that? Is that in Hoyle with Robert's Rules of Order? Can
Yeah.
you go back and re-vote on an option?
It's a new motion. Yeah.
A new motion for what?
Ask council.
Yeah, Jennifer. Yeah.
In the Council of Cities, I've seen the same motion go through 7 times before people give up.
Wow, we must have Valley rules. Okay. God.
Jennifer, just confirming that we can vote. You can have a second motion on the same.
Yes, the motion can be recalled to the floor.
And can it be recalled by anyone?
I thought it had to be the losing party that recalled it, or the winning
is no
party
losing
that
party.
recalled it.
I thought that was.
There is no winning
There was
party.
no winning party.
Yeah.
Thought it
It was
was.
tied.
I guess there's no losing party.
Yeah.
Let's vote again.
Okay. The motion on the table is to approve option 1. And roll call vote, please.
okay, if you would announce your approval or disapproval. County of San Mateo,
No.
County of San Mateo. Is Carol there?
Carol?
He's muted.
Okay, I will come back. Town of Atherton,
I'm
No.
sorry. Yeah,
Oh.
and I'm going to vote yes.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Town of Atherton,
No.
City of Belmont,
No.
City of Brisbane, City of Burlingame,
No.
Town of Colma, City of Daly City,
Yes.
City of East Palo Alto,
Yes.
City of Foster City,
Yes.
City of Half Moon Bay, Town of Hillsborough,
No.
City of Los Banos,
No.
City of Menlo Park,
Yes.
City of Millbrae,
No.
Millbrae? No?
Darn
Okay,
you button.
sorry. City of Pacifica,
Yes.
Town of Portola Valley,
Yes.
City of Redwood City,
No.
City of San Bruno,
No.
City of San Carlos,
Yes.
City of San Mateo,
Yes.
City of South San Francisco,
Yes.
Town of Woodside.
Yeah, I think we should accept the hydro allocation.
I think the yeses have it. I have 11 yeses.
Yes, I confirm 11.
Okay. Well,
Wow.
all right.
What's the weighted vote on that?
Yeah. What's the weighted vote on it?
There would need to be a formal call for a weighted vote.
Marty, is that a
Any
formal
member
call
can do
for
that.
weighted vote? Marty is calling.
Formally requesting.
It'll take a moment for us to calculate that.
Should we go on, Jeff, to the next item while they calculate that?
Oh,
That well, it's right here. So,
Okay.
huh?
Yeah, it looks like it's a yes.
Okay. Yes, it does look like it has passed with both with the weighted and the just and the straight votes. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for that. That was a good discussion. Okay. We will move on then to item 8, which is the local government fleets program. Is this Raphael started?
No, I'll be leading this one, Director Ross.
Oh, sorry, Philip. Yep.
Good evening, board. I appreciate the time to propose the local fleets program this evening. I wanted to start by saying this is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. Prior to joining PCE last year, I was the fleet manager for Alameda County, where I was in charge of putting a bunch of EVs in the field. And so I know how difficult it can be for fleet managers, even those who are dedicated to doing this. So we have a proposed program to help them out. All right, next slide, Shana. Okay, great. So starting with a quick high-level overview of our program's portfolio, we're focusing on 3 sectors for decarbonization: building electrification, transportation electrification, and resiliency. And this would be our first major effort in the fleet sector of transportation electrification. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so this is a local government fleet program that includes a few elements. That's technical assistance, funding, and a resiliency demonstration. The request for your board tonight is for approval of the proposed program. The amount is $900,000 over 3 years, consisting of these 3 components, and I'll be talking about those in detail. Okay, next slide. Thank you. So as I mentioned, there's 3 components. The first is providing support. And so this is going to be both at a high level and at a hands-on level, trainings, site design, setup, that component, and that will be about $350,000. And we'd be working with a consulting team to help administer this and offer it to local fleets. The second component would be funding in the amount not to exceed $300,000, and this is targeted to be funding assistance primarily. And then the third component of this program is a vehicle to building resiliency demonstration program with the amount not to exceed $250,000. Okay, next. Here are the proposed eligibility requirements for participation in this program. The first is that it would be open to all local San Mateo County public agencies, including public school districts. All on-road vehicle classes are eligible from light duty to medium and heavy duty. We'd be asking agencies that we'd be working with to commit to replacing at least 5 or more vehicles per project site, with an exception for schools. And the reason for that is to help us focus our efforts on projects that would have concentrated or higher impact. And it would also open up the door for coordination with PG&E EV Fleets program, which is a medium and heavy duty program and requires 5 vehicles to be replaced for eligibility in that program. And the last component is that station owners, agencies in this case, would be eligible to collect low carbon fuel standards through the California Air Resources Board. And we would be asking them to delegate those credits to Peninsula Clean Energy so that we can reinvest those in future programs. Okay, next slide. So I'm going to go through each of the 3 components that I mentioned. And the first is the support that we would be offering towards fleets. It's very difficult for fleets that want to do this, like I mentioned, even if they're dedicated. So we're providing really a kind of soup to nuts assistance package to help them go through the process. So at a very general level for everyone, we're providing broad tools like total cost of ownership calculators, workshops, events. These would be partnering with local partners like the Clean Cities Coalitions, help with grant education, contracting resources, and general advising. And then we'd also be offering custom assistance, which is more hands-on help for a few fleets. And I'll be talking about that on the next slide. Great. So here is how that more hands-on assistance would work for the fleets that need more, again, help, more hands-on help in getting these projects in the ground and getting these done. And so it's really from A to Z. So the first would be project planning and cost estimates, helping them figure out what this effort will take, what the budget would be, and help them with those designs. Grant application assistance to help them take advantage of the state and local and regional rebates that do exist for different types and classes of vehicles and infrastructure. Bid development and piggybacking assistance with an effort on helping them streamline procurement, because there are efforts out there that offer group pricing for public agencies for these vehicles. If necessary, it could include construction management and closeout, especially if they're not doing it internally. And then the last part would be smart charging, essentially getting the station set up and then helping them with energy management so that they are maximizing their savings and minimizing bill elements like demand charges. And so I'm estimating that we'll be offering this level of support, the more hands-on level, to about 2 projects per year. And it would cost about $40,000 to $80,000 per project, depending on how much hands-on effort is needed. Okay, next slide. Okay, so moving on to the second element, which is the funding that we are providing, which would be up to $300,000. So again, this is targeting gap funding. So there are a lot of state and regional rebates that are available. So we would be helping fleets take advantage of those rebates first, but a lot of them are vehicle or use case dependent, like school buses or certain medium or heavy duty applications. So it would be filling in the gaps where rebates don't already exist. I'm proposing an additional incentive to schools in this program. And this funding can be used for a wide array of program activities like the charging hardware itself, the incremental cost of the vehicles, installation, any energy management subscriptions that they would be doing for smart charging or networking fees like that. And then the other thing that this pot of funds could be used for would be something like a light duty vehicle demonstration. For example, when electric pickup trucks, like a class 1 truck comes to market, that would be an interesting opportunity to use that as a demonstration of electric vehicles in a fleet and be a showcase for other fleets. And so here is how I'm proposing we do this incentive structure here. So the way I'm proposing it is that we look at the total cost of the project, putting in the hardware, and then buying the vehicles, and then subtract out what available incentives already would be helping them to do this, and funding that they would have collected internally for vehicle replacement depreciation, and then looking at the unfunded project scope after we net that out. And so for small projects under 100K, we'd be offering up to 25% for local agencies, or 25,000, whichever is less. And then for schools, we're adding a bit of an adder. We're giving a wider range. They would have up to 50% of the project costs, or up to 50K be eligible for this pot of funding. And for large projects over 100K, so this would be an example of a local school replacing 5 school buses, for instance. If they still had over $100,000 in uncovered project costs, we would offer them up to 50%, or up to $100,000 per project. Okay, next. So the last and third element of this project is a vehicle to building resiliency pilot, and that will be up to $250,000 in total funding. This would be a demonstration at one local agency's critical facility. And the goal here is to understand the cost benefit proposal of a fleet vehicle to building usefulness as a resiliency measure. So we'll be obviously putting EVs into fleets, and they'll have benefits to local cities in that way by having their fleets. We're looking to demonstrate what additional benefits like resiliency that EVs could serve in our local fleets. And so the scope of this project is to design and provide design and install support, do some trial demonstrations, and then conduct an evaluation that highlights the barriers and costs and benefits of using these vehicles resiliency component. And in the budget, we're proposing to cover really pretty much everything to make it support those vehicles. We're thinking 1 to 2 use without lease, if they're capable of doing bidirectional power flow. And then 1 to 2 EV charging stations that would be capable of doing, again, bidirectional power flow to a building, and then the installation component of it, of course. Okay, next slide, Shana. And here's a more detailed breakdown of this component of the budget. Like I mentioned before, it would cover 2 vehicles. 1 to 2, it's going to depend really on the critical facility that we look at and what their power needs would be. But potentially 2 used vehicles is a good starting place. The stations, the design and engineering to do this, the installation support, and then project support and evaluation to help run this project from beginning to end. And so here is a 3-year look at the budget. As a reminder, it's $900,000 over 3 years. We'd be looking to get started in the later part of this fiscal year, but the bulk of work would be occurring next fiscal year and then the following, concluding in fiscal year 23. And I think the next one is the last slide. Yes, so here's the recap. Again, this is a local government fleet program, and the request tonight is for your approval of this proposed program. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. I'll start with board questions for Philip, then we'll go to public comment and then discussion. Are there any questions from the board on this the presentation? Okay. Seeing none, I will take a public comment. Mark Roost, go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. All right. First of all, the big comment is you didn't talk about conversions, and there is a technology which is set up in production for class 1 to 3 pickup trucks. And also vans and things, but it's particularly set up for 1 to 3 pickup trucks. But the same company does class 8, and in the time frame that you're talking about for most of the activity, you could probably get 2 heavy, a class 8 truck and a big class D bus, This person previously did a Class D bus conversion 5 years ago. That's how we met. I don't know if you're interested in solar for this, but you ought to probably at least be thinking about, for economics, the stationary batteries to be soaking up the electricity at low rates and then supplying it when it's needed. But solar is also a value here. I think in the 43 seconds to go, I can't really put a handle around the whole thing, but I have been working on this particular subject for the last 5 years with Green Fleets Group and the Clean Cities Coalition. So the Breathe California and the San Jose Clean Cities Coalition covers this county, and I know that Margot is very interested in providing support and education and various other things. So we ought to have some talks. I'm at 650-888-3665. And I'm Mark Roost in San Mateo County.
Thanks, Mark. Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, seeing no other hands up, I could entertain discussion or a motion on the item on the table.
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, it is moved by Rick Bonilla, seconded by Deidre Martin. Any other discussion?
I'm trying to lift up my hand. There it is.
I'm sorry, yep.
So I just had one question. I was in the SPWMA meeting this afternoon, and they're talking about replacing their trucks. And I was very frustrated that they were saying, well, we're talking to PG&E about grants and this and that. And they seem very unconvinced. They want to continue with the gasoline powered trucks that pick up our trash and our compost and everything else. And it's really frustrating because it's a lot of trucks with a lot of impact on our community. And I pointed out that we might have this program that might be able to help them. And they said they'd begun talking to us. And without going into too much detail here, I would just like to encourage you to continue speaking with them, because that's one fleet of very large and a lot of trucks that basically prowl around the county every day. And if there's one I'd love to convert to electricity or hybrid or something better, I would love to. So I just wanted to encourage those talks and bring that to your attention, because I cringe every time they buy a new truck that's a gas guzzler. Thank you.
No, point well taken, Kat. Rick Bonilla, go ahead.
I just want to double down on what Kat just said. We're going to be buying a whole new fleet of trucks over the next 4 or 5 years at SBWMA. It's really critical that we get some better communication going there. So please reach out. Thanks.
Could you repeat the name of the fleet again?
South Bayside Waste Management Authority.
Got it.
Yeah.
Recology and all those guys.
I've been in communication.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a really important, obviously that's a big fleet that's, I think, almost ready for prime time in terms of electrification. So it'd be great to hear more about that.
I've been
Thanks. Ann Schneider, go ahead.
Music to my ears. South City Scavengers fleet has been running on biodiesel from anaerobic digestion for years now. And I will bring this up the next statewide commission, but it's up to you guys, the board of the SMWMA, to put some pressure on them and make them get a cleaner vehicle.
Oh yeah, the pressure's on them. But the thing is, there's some order at, I think after 2025, they can only buy zero emission vehicles.
Yeah.
So the anaerobic gas will not be good. So it'll have to be electric.
And Rick, aren't there 3 or 4 of us that are on both boards?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Rick and I are on both boards. They're complaining that the batteries are so heavy that they can't contain all of the load with the restrictions on some of the roads. And they're pushing back on us pretty hard, but I did speak up with them this afternoon that they should reach out to you. So I'm reciprocating and saying you should speak out to them as well.
I think I'm going to make another call tomorrow and reinforce that.
I'll do that too. We can work together.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear this is being discussed because I mean it's a big one. Mark, if you have a quick comment, you can make one more comment. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, the batteries today are hard to use. They're 200 watt-hours per kilogram. Tesla's at 270. We're going to be coming in at 1600 watt-hours per kilogram, and it will not be an issue, and that we will be able to manufacture those starting sometime next year.
Interesting.
And we will undercut the industry in terms of price.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
And the conversion can be done by the same guy I was talking about. So EVGIN, EVGINE Inc. Was in California, is in Florida right now, has a yard in Stockton where it can do conversions, and is very possible for us to do conversions instead of purchase. So anybody who thinks they want to get one in before 2025, we can say no, convert it instead.
Interesting. Thank you. Cool. Okay. We had a motion and second, motion moved by Rick Bonilla and seconded by Deidre, if memory serves.
Yes.
And roll call vote, please.
All right, if you would please announce your approval or disapproval on the motion when I announce your jurisdiction. County of San Mateo.
Yes.
Yes.
Town of Atherton.
Yes.
City of Belmont.
Yes.
City of Brisbane. City of Burlingame.
Yes.
Town of Colma. City of Daly City.
Yes.
City of East Palo Alto.
Yes.
City of Foster City.
Yes.
City of Half Moon Bay. Town of Hillsborough.
Yes.
City of Los Banos.
Yes.
City of Menlo Park.
Yes.
City of Millbrae.
Yes.
City of Pacifica.
Yes.
Town of Portola Valley.
Yes.
City of Redwood City.
Yes.
City of San Bruno.
Yes.
City of San Carlos.
Yes.
City of San Mateo.
Yes.
City of South San Francisco.
Yes.
Town of Woodside.
Much easier to keep track of the votes on this one. Yes.
Yes.
Looking good. Yeah.
And the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Philip. We'll move on to item 9, which is Harvest Thermal.
Thank you, directors. This is Rafael Reyes, and in the interest of time, I will move quickly through this. Next slide. What I'm going to talk about here is the contract for Harvest Thermal. As you can see with the fleets discussion, we are continuing to look for opportunities for innovation, and that includes this particular pilot. Next, this particular pilot sits within our existing buildings programs as an effort to decarbonize existing buildings in particular. Next. You may recall, board members may recall the approval earlier in May of a $6.1 million existing buildings electrification program, which at that point included the Harvest Thermal pilot. And so what you have here is now the expression, if you will, of that program plan and with a specific contract for which we're requesting approval. Next. Next. So the specific request is to approve up to $250,000 for this pilot project. Next. This technology provides water and space heating with a single heat pump and single thermal storage unit or water tank. The benefits that we see from this technology is both to lower the installation costs, and it allows load shifting of both water and space heating, which will lower the electrical bills for the home, as well as provide load shifting for our grid needs. The pilot objectives are to deploy the technology in up to 5 homes to assess the technology and also support further development of that technology. Next. And Shane, I'm going to ask you to click through about 5 times here to get the bullets up here for this slide. This is a schematic showing the specific elements of the technology. Shane, if you could click through 5 times, please. So as noted, it has combined space and water heating. And you'll note here that there's a single heat pump in the upper left, and that is exchanging water and heating that water that's placed into the thermal battery in the middle. That's the thermal tank. And the core technology is the harvest pod that you see in the upper right. That harvest pod is the intelligence that determines what operations may be needed. And it's also talking to not only the storage tank, but also the air handler, which is providing space heating and then distributing hot water for hot water use throughout the home. The advantages of the technology also include that most of the components are off-the-shelf components. But the core harvest pod technology is patented technology. Part of the future roadmap of the technology is to incorporate it or incorporate air conditioning as well. Next. A little bit about the company. This is a Bay Area-based startup with prototypes that are already in several homes in the region. There's an experienced senior leadership team. In fact, we do have CEO Jane Melia on the line here if there are questions from the board. They have secured some early stage funding and notably have won both the National Science Foundation and California Energy Commission grants to further develop their technologies. As we do with all of the pilots that we develop, we of course have had dialogue with the CEO and senior staff. They did approach PCE. We're currently, still assessing these technologies. I would describe informally, but that includes, looking at those technologies in the context of PCE's roadmap and what impact it can have. Whether there are other similar technologies, in this case, drawing on my own experience from technology incubators prior to joining PCE, and other reviews of ongoing technology development. We are not a bit aware of any similar technologies, and noted the highly experienced staff and other reputable entities that have been involved in assessing harvest. Next. A little more detail on the pilot. As I mentioned, the first phase will be to do some additional development of the technology to move it forward from its prototype phase closer to market ready. Next, there will be home recruitment. We will be doing outreach, limited, narrow outreach to prospective homes, drawing on probably largely the list that we used for the electrification pilot, community pilot that we had about 18 months ago. And selecting homes based on the home characteristics, energy use, and other related home characteristics, as well as, very importantly, the homeowner's commitment and readiness to move forward. This is a very narrow technology pilot. We want to make sure that all of the conditions are optimal, and that we're really focused on assessing the technology as opposed to other peripheral conditions that may exist. Again, up to 5 homes. Harvest would manage all the installation process and provide homeowner support. We would be reaching out to IBEW to help identify contractors for the installation process. And then there's, of course, the assessment phase. We would be hiring under separate contract a separate firm to do measurement and verification of the technology and gathering data from Harvest to do that assessment. And that would include installation costs, energy costs, bill savings, customer satisfaction, and the like. Next. So again here, the request of the board is for support of this contract to execute the pilot with Harvest Thermal. We're looking at 2.5 years as likely execution time frame for this pilot for up to $250,000.
Thank you, Raphael. I will just begin by seconding what Raphael said here. As someone who spends a lot of time trying to convince people to look at new technologies, especially around heat pump water heaters, I will say that this is an unmet need and a really important area for us to be trying to basically spur further adoption of electrification technologies. So I'm very excited to see this move forward. My one question will just be, you mentioned, you pointed to the air handler, you pointed to the air handler option for space heating. I assume this is also perfectly viable for radiant floor heating or radiators. I just want
Absolutely. Yes. In fact, in some ways, that's optimal. In any sort of transfer operation, there's a certain amount of energy loss.
More efficient.
So yes, radiant is ideal.
Yep, got it. Okay, Ann Schneider, go ahead.
Thank you. Raphael, is this pilot going to move projects around the county, or is it going to be down in the areas that will need air conditioning before those of us here in North County will need air conditioning?
It will not have air conditioning as part of the feature at this time. So it will not be in any way geographically constrained to non-air conditioning related areas. But really the key issue is finding optimal homes of a particular size and that are not, experiencing other energy efficiency problems. And again, that have the homeowner readiness and, partner maturity, if you will, really are the primary characteristics.
And are you going to reach out to our community development departments, or want those of us who are elected to use our time at the podium to see if there's interest?
Well, thank you for that. We, at this point, are not looking to do broad-based outreach. We, in the community pilots for the electrification pilot that we already cast a net out to homeowners for that pilot. We have that list. And we are at this point anticipating using that list as the initial draft target list.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Pradeep, go ahead.
Yeah, very quickly, I just wanted to point out that this project is looking at a technology which will be very useful in the future because it has a big component of demand shifting possibility. And when we are going to be matching our renewables, 100% renewable energy on 24/7 basis to the demand, both supply side and the demand side will have to work in hand in order to make that happen. And this project brings a technology, electricity technology that could help out. Also, I wanted to point out that the basic attraction of this approach is heat pump, which is expensive, may not be justifiable for water heater alone, but by expanding its use, one single heat pump to both water heating as well as for space heating, it's very cleverly uses the same fixed cost to provide two end uses. So it is much better attractive option. And I want to encourage us going into this direction. And I have also mentioned earlier to Raphael that very few trained folks are available both in terms of handling the plumbing part of the project as well as HVAC in single unit. So this project will also show the new labor requirements that might be needed in order to make that project on scalable basis later on. So I was very interested in us working with the labor part of the project to make sure that any such possibilities are encouraged by PCE. Thank you.
Excellent points, Pradeep. Raphael, do you want to respond or?
No, I'll 100% agree with all those observations. And yes, we're very excited about it for those reasons.
Great. Okay, I see a hand from the public. Mark Roos, go ahead. Mark, you're muted.
All right, sorry about that. So I was in 1983, Solar Tech International. We sold, we combined the water heater and the storage tank, and we'd take the coldest water and put it to the roof to the solar panel. There was at that time, and still is, I'm sure, a baseboard space heater. So the water would be piped to a baseboard space heater, which would heat up the room from the floor level. We're taking the coolest water and sending it up because that soaks up the most BTUs the fastest. And there are now, I believe, air conditioners or chillers based on heat from the sun. So that's another way to look. And what was the price? I mean, so we were selling, at that time, we were selling enough to provide the hot water for a family of 4 or 5 for $5,000. What's the price for this thing?
Well, this is running a number of functions. We anticipate the installed cost to run between $16,000 and $22,000, which is less than the cost of installing both heat pump water heating and separately a heat pump space heating units.
I think ours would have been more cost effective because we could do space heating and it wouldn't take it up to 20,000. It'd take up to 7 or 9 or something. You throw in some more panels, throw in a bigger water space storage tank, and throw in some registers and the plumbing to get to them.
Interesting.
Okay. Happy to look at any information you might have.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark.
It's all in my head because they're not in existence anymore. But
yeah. Thanks, Mark. Okay. If there's no other comments, then I could entertain a motion to approve the pilot funding.
So moved.
And a second.
I'll second, Deirdre.
Okay, moved by Laura Palmer-Lohan, seconded by Catherine. Was that you?
Yes, Catherine Mahoney.
Any further discussion? If not, then roll call vote, please.
Okay, if you would please announce your approval or disapproval when I announce your jurisdiction. County of San Mateo.
Yes.
Yes.
Town of Atherton.
Yes.
City of Belmont.
Yes.
City of Brisbane. City of Burlingame.
Yes.
Town of Colma. City of Daly City.
Yes.
City of East Palo Alto.
Yes.
City of Foster City.
Yes.
City of Half Moon Bay. Town of Hillsborough.
Yes.
City of Los Banos.
Yes.
City of Menlo Park.
Yes.
City of Millbrae.
Yes.
City of Pacifica.
Yes.
Town of Portola Valley.
Yes.
City of Redwood City.
Yes.
City of San Bruno.
Yes.
City of San Carlos.
Yes.
City of San Mateo.
Yes.
City of South San Francisco.
Yes.
Town of Woodside.
I'm going to abstain. I think it's terrific. I'm just not sure if we work with the company, so I'll abstain.
And the motion passes.
Thank you very much, directors.
Great. Thank you. And thank you to Jane. Thanks for being here. We look forward to hearing more about this. You're more.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Take care. Okay. We'll move on to item 10, which is to review and approve the meeting schedule for the board for 2021. Jan, did you want to, or who's presenting this? Someone presenting this?
Well, if we go to the next slide,
There we go.
there is your meeting schedule for 2021. It's based on the same dates, the same days of the month that we used this year. It's just projecting for 2021. Still showing the Saturday, September 25th for the retreat, and October, the rest of the dates basically align with the fourth Thursday of the month, except for September, and then November and December when everything is moved forward to avoid the holidays.
Any questions?
No.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
I move.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Rick Bonilla, seconded by Laura Palmer Lohan. And roll call vote, please.
Okay, if you would announce your approval or disapproval. County of San Mateo.
Yes.
Town of Atherton.
Yes.
City of Belmont.
Yes.
City of Brisbane. City of Burlingame.
Yes.
Town of Colma. City of Daly City.
Yes.
City of East Palo Alto.
Yes.
City of Foster City.
Yes.
City of Half Moon Bay. Town of Hillsborough.
Yes.
City of Los Banos.
Yes.
City of Menlo Park.
Yes.
City of Millbrae.
Yes.
City of Pacifica.
Yes.
Town of Portola Valley.
Yes.
City of Redwood City.
Abstain.
City of San Bruno.
Yes.
City of San Carlos.
Yes.
City of San Mateo.
Yes.
City of South San Francisco.
Yes.
Town of Woodside.
Yes.
And the motion passes.
Great, thank you. Okay, item 11, we will have a quick update on the disadvantaged community and community solar green tariffs. Matthew.
Thank you. So to those of you that aren't familiar with my face, I'm Matthew Rutherford. I'm on the policy team here at Peninsula Clean Energy. And tonight I just have a quick presentation for you on disadvantaged communities green tariff and community solar green tariff programs. Next slide, please. So just wanted to touch on some of the background of these two programs for discussion for the board, and also just wanted to mention that we're not asking for any action from the board at this time, as you'll see as we talk about some more of the details. But just wanted to touch on some of the high-level particulars of the program, where we currently stand in the development process, and set an expectation as to when the board can expect to see this be brought before them again in the future. And I guess in interest of time, we can go on to the next slide. So as many of you probably know, PCE has been engaged consistently over the last 3.5 years in order to develop this program to offer them for the benefit of our customers. And it is crucial to note that they would not be funded through PCE's generation revenue. And as this is a program that was authorized by the Public Utilities Commission, they have laid out a state approval process that we are currently following. And then to that end, we need to file a request with the commission by the end of this year, as represented by the green bubble in this graphic. And as indicated by the purple bubbles, there will be subsequent steps when we will bring the programs back before the board of directors following approval from the CPUC. Next slide, please. At the core, these programs are designed to promote new renewable generation that would be built in state-defined disadvantaged communities and provide direct benefits to the members that live in those communities. Therefore, all the new renewable projects would need to be sited within those DACs, and each CCA that is offering these programs was allocated a certain generation capacity that then they can procure to provide power for those programs. The numbers were calculated based upon the total number of residential customers that reside in DACs that each of the CCA serves. So for us, that means that a 0.9 megawatt allocation for the DAC GT program and a 230 kilowatt allocation for the CSGT program. And once Los Banos is fully integrated into PCE and is able to participate in all of our programs, it will likely change the calculation, but the full impacts are still being assessed at this time. Next slide, please. So in addition to the requirement that these new projects be sited in DACs, the customers who benefit would also need to reside within DACs. And these programs really present an opportunity to demonstrate a direct value of solar technology within our local communities. And any participating customer would receive solar energy to cover their usage, and additionally would receive a 20% bill credit as compared to their otherwise applicable rate. Next slide, please. So last slide here. Currently, we forecast the programs combined will cost about $900,000 for the first 2 years. And again, all of that will be recoverable without using our generation revenue. And just to finally reiterate, our next step is to file an advice letter, which is due to the CPUC by the end of this year.
Thanks. Thank you, Matt. I will take questions. I just want to point out that, 2 years ago or longer, we were talking about this as a program that PG&E was going to administer entirely, and we were basically, our customers were going to have to sort of go through PG&E. PG&E was going to collect all the, basically rate base this. So the fact that we're actually now at the point where we're able to sort of participate in this and probably get rate-based money back from PG&E is actually a really nice step for us. So I just want to thank staff and CalCC and everyone that helped make that happen. And with that, I will take questions. I see Ann Snyder's hand up. Ann, go ahead.
Hi, see what happens when I don't show up very often. I think the program is great. I have one concern, and it's how we as society are identifying or defining equity. So I saw your neighborhoods. I understand they're based on census tract. However, there are many other low-income concentrations throughout the county, but their next two are included in a more wealthy census tract. And that means cities like mine, Millbrae, couldn't qualify for Safe Routes to School money because we didn't have a census tract that looked like that. So I think this is fine going on. I just would hope staff would look at equity and perhaps change the way they designate what is a community of concern or not. It's made it really hard to get bike pedestrian grants so that we can get people off of El Camino Real and have them stop getting hit by a car, as an example.
No, thanks, Ann. That's a good point. Matt, go ahead. And do you want to respond to that?
Sure, I can. And I would say that generally I agree with that sentiment. It is sometimes it loses a fair amount of the detail that you would find within individual communities. And like you mentioned, it is a statewide designation, so we don't necessarily get too much of a say in how exactly the definition is developed. But I can also say that in conversations and comments that we've submitted to the Public Utility Commission around programs that are supposed to promote equity within these disadvantaged communities as defined by the state, we do try and push them to consider other metrics that may provide for broader access for other communities that don't fit this more rigid definition.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Kat, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I was just going to say the same thing. We have the same issues with Bellhaven. People have this perception that everything on the other side of 101 is East Palo Alto, and I don't mean to take away from the needs in East Palo Alto, but we have people that are in equal situations in that area that I hope don't get lost in this.
Yeah, that's a great point. I will repeat Matt's point, which is that we're sort of it's hard to sort of move the needle quickly on how these communities get designated. I'll also point out that we have some latitude on our own. I mean, this is a program that gets where we receive money through sort of through the rate-based mechanism. There's nothing stopping us from serving some of our communities more granularly over time because we have latitude to spend some of our own revenue on these programs, on our own programs, we'll put it that way. It's a great point. Thanks. Okay, I see one hand up from Mark. Go ahead.
Hi. I agree with those thoughts. The thought that comes up for me is that if we're doing things on a large scale, if a whole systems approach, and let's say elevated pedestrian guideway that goes the length of El Camino, and the parts of it that are in the right census tracts get supported by that, and the parts of it that aren't in the right census tracts get supported on the granular basis that Jeff just mentioned. And there's a bunch of technologies that can be used for that kind of thing, which are really extraordinary in their impacts and in their cost reduction. So I think that's about it. Just complement, do a whole systems design approach, and then complement the sources of money according to what they need, what they demand, with what we have the latitude to do.
Agreed. Thanks, Mark. Okay. I don't see any other hands up, and this was a discussion item only. So if there are no other questions, then thank you, Matt, and I look forward to hearing more about this coming forward. That brings us to item 12, which is board member reports. Does anybody have anything they want to share with us before we adjourn?
Just want to say thanks to everybody. Good meeting.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you all.
Ditto.
And yes,
I'll miss you guys.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Kat, everyone, Kat, Wayne. I'm going to lose track of people, but thank you all, and don't be strangers.
No,
Kat,
not at
send
all.
me your
Thank you, Matt.
contact
See you later.
information.
Bye, Deirdre.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, take care,
Stay
guys.
clean, everyone.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Bye. Good night. Thank you.
Bye.